I'd like to thank all members for coming today and thank you for those that are testifying. I'd like to remind everyone to please silence their phone and to remind everyone that this hearing is recorded. I'm Representative Jim Marshall from the 14th Legislative District and joined by Chairman Conklin. And Chairman, if you'd like to introduce yourself and other members, please join in.
Scott Conklin, I represent the 77th District, basically Penn State University. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Good morning, Representative Movita Johnson-Harrell. I represent the 190th District, West Philadelphia.
Tom Mahaffey, I represent the 106th District, Dauphin County.
Good morning, George Dunbar, Westmoreland County, 56th District.
Russ Diamond, Lebanon County, 102nd District.
Josh Kale, 15th Legislative District, Washington and Beaver County.
Tim O'Neill, 48th District, Washington County.
Mark Rossi, Berks County, 126th District.
Dave Deloso, Delaware County, 162nd District.
Jeannie McNeil, Lehigh County, 133rd District.
Brandon, Mark Kosick, I'm 25th District. I'm Pittsburgh area, Allegheny County.
49th District, parts of Washington, Fayette, the Mon Valley, Representative Bud Cook.
Thank you, members. Today's hearing concerns the Pennsylvania Skill Games and House Bill 1407. I'm certain the members of this committee and the members of the General Assembly would like to get as much information as we can on this topic, and that's the purpose of this hearing, to gather information. And I would like to ask Chairman Conklin if you have any remarks.
No, thank you. Thank you, Chairman. I'm just excited to see that we have a nice turnout today. I'm anxious to hear the testimony, but most of all, I'm anxious to see how the other members on both sides feel about the testimony when the hearing's over.
Thank you, Chairman. I'd like to begin with our first group from Pennsylvania Skill. Tom Marino, Vice President of Government Affairs and Public Relations of Pace-O-Matic.
Thank you. Chairman, Vice Chairs, State Representatives, and members of the audience, I appreciate the opportunity to testify before this distinguished committee. My name is Tom Marino, and I'm the Vice President of Government Affairs, Public Relations, and Counsel for Pace-O-Matic. Prior to taking on this role, I served as United States Congressman for the 10th and the 12th Districts of Pennsylvania, United States Attorney for the Department of Justice, and District Attorney of Lycoming County. Considering my past roles, you might ask what led me to work for Pace-O-Matic and Pennsylvania Skill. I'm proud to be working with a Pennsylvania company that is expanding manufacturing and creating jobs. As someone who spent a career in law enforcement, I want to stress upon you that Pennsylvania skill amusement devices are legal and have been adjudicated by the Court of Common Pleas in Beaver County as such. This decision was included in the packet of materials that we have provided to this committee. The case was not appealed by the Pennsylvania State Police, with the understanding that the Pennsylvania State Police would abide by the court's decision. As a prosecutor for over 18 years, I know very well that only legislators create the laws, and judges interpret those laws. Law enforcement's job is to enforce the laws, regardless of the personal opinions of a few. We feel that our decision speaks for itself and that the few law enforcement officers should not be harassing our customers. I believe in this product, and I have witnessed firsthand the positive impact it has had on our communities. Countless jobs that have been created, the small businesses which have been saved, the clubs, VFWs, legions, and volunteer fire companies, which have gone from bankruptcy to thriving due to our legal Pennsylvania skill amusement devices. Even better, these amusement devices are manufactured right here in Pennsylvania by Mealy Manufacturing, and nearly all the parts and materials are sourced from the United States, mostly from Pennsylvania, including cabinets, steel, wires, and etc. Mealy Manufacturing went from 12 employees to well over 100 employees. It was stated at last week at a press conference that we do not pay taxes. I want to be clear that our company pays tens of millions of dollars in taxes to local, state, and federal governments. That is something you will be hearing more about shortly. As someone who once sat in your shoes as a legislator, I have great respect for Pennsylvania Skill because we are walking through the front door, meeting with legislators, talking to interest groups, and we have the courage to stand before this body to ask you to implement responsible regulations on this growing industry. And when I say we, I want to be very clear on this point, and it applies to all the individuals testifying today. We are here to speak about Pace-O-Matic's legal, adjudicated Pennsylvania skill machines. There have been efforts to lump us in with tens of thousands of illegal machines, and that is unfair. Again, we are testifying about Pace-O-Matic's products, Pennsylvania skill, and not the score of other illegal gambling devices. For those of you who are concerned about illegal machines, we share those concerns. We must enforce the laws, eliminate illegal operations in the market, and further cement the marketplace for legal skill machines. Help small businesses, clubs, VFWs, American Legions, local fire halls, and fraternal clubs, and provide substantial tax revenue to the Commonwealth. And I yield back the balance of my time, and thank you. Yield to Rick.
Thank you, Mr. Marino. Mr. Marino is joined by Rick Goodling, Compliance Supervisor, Pace-O-Matic. Sir?
Thank you. Good morning, Chairman and members of the committee. My name is Rick Goodling, and I serve as the Compliance Supervisor for Pace-O-Matic in Pennsylvania. Prior to joining Pace-O-Matic, I served as a Pennsylvania State Trooper for nearly 27 years, rising to the rank of corporal, where I worked as a patrol supervisor in criminal investigations, as a trooper attached to the Bureau of Liquor Control Enforcement's Compliance, Auditing, and Gambling Enforcement Unit, the CAGE unit, and as a supervisor of the CAGE unit. There I was tasked with investigating large-scale illegal gambling investigations, which included investigating gambling devices. As part of my efforts with Pace-O-Matic, Muley Manufacturing, and Pennsylvania Skill, that is still one of our missions. We have a compliance team in Pennsylvania comprised of former Pennsylvania State Troopers and liquor enforcement officers that is tasked with visiting our customers, and we help to weed out illegal gaming machines that should not be in the marketplace. We have contacted the Pennsylvania State Police about illegal machines and often have been successful in getting small businesses, VFWs, American Legions, fire halls, and other clubs to switch out their illegal games to Pennsylvania skill amusement devices. Over the last 9 months alone, we can estimate that nearly 100 illegal machines have been taken off the streets by our compliance team and replaced with our legal amusement devices. We currently have about 12,000 amusement devices in small businesses, VFWs, legions, fire halls, and other clubs across the Commonwealth. Only adults 18 and over may play our Pennsylvania skill amusement devices. During my service with the state police and as a supervisor of compliance, I have never witnessed a minor playing the Pennsylvania skill amusement device. Many of our games are in locations who those customers must be 21 years of age to enter those premises. We work with our manufacturer, operators, and location to ensure they are compliant and that our amusement devices are being utilized properly as outlined in our service agreement and our code of conduct. We met with many of you individually, and nearly every one of you has asked the difference between a game of skill and a VGT or a game of chance. The main difference is that our devices require interaction and predominant skill of play. With a Pennsylvania skill device, you must think and take action to win. On a VGT or slot machine, a player simply pushes the button and hopes that the machine will eventually pay out. A person with patience and skill can win every single time on our Pennsylvania skill product. With our Pennsylvania skill amusement devices, our basic game is tic-tac-toe, where the player must select a wild or open spot in order to complete a line. You win points depending on the type of images you are able to line up. If you are not successful, you may get to play a follow-me game. This is a memory game where you must follow a series of colored balls in a specific order. Again, if you are skillful enough, you can win every time and win 100% of your game play every time you press the button. Our amusement devices operate on a fill license system and are not connected to the internet. When a device is empty and has no additional fills left, an operator must call Muley Manufacturing, a Pennsylvania company, and purchase a new fill license. Once purchased, the operator will enter a code and renew the license. This is a system we have set up deliberately and allows us to track how each device is performing and ensure that we pay taxes on every dollar spent and collected. As a former state trooper, I have seen the bad actors and how they utilize illegal machines and take advantage of the system, avoid taxes, and hurt the entire industry. That is one of the many reasons I believe in the Pennsylvania Skill product. We have a model that is transparent and really benefits the entire Commonwealth. I would like to now turn this over to Dr. Pete Zaleski to discuss the economic study. Thank you.
Mr. Zaleski.
Thank you, Rick, and thank you to the members of the committee. My name is Peter Zaleski. I'm a professor of economics at Villanova University, where I've served on the faculty since 1987. Since the 1990s, I've undertaken numerous economic and statistical analyses. Pace-O-Matic has contracted with Meadows Metrics, an analytics consulting firm, to perform an economic impact study, and I serve as the lead consultant on this project. Using data provided by Mealy Manufacturing, we are estimating the income generated for Pennsylvania Skill amusement device machine operators who are located in Pennsylvania and the income generated for owners of the establishments where these devices are located in Pennsylvania. In addition, we are including an indirect impact and an induced multiplier effect. This is a standard treatment in economic analysis, which allows us to estimate the dollar value of the added benefits to the community, examples of which were mentioned by Tom Marino, and you will hear more about these in the next group of testimony. The indirect effect accounts for the additional income generated throughout the state as a result of these business owners needing to hire more employees or outsource more work to support their growing businesses. The induced effects measures the extra spending in the community all of those affected will undertake. As a result of this added income and spending, the Pennsylvania Skill devices generate sales tax and income tax for the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. Mealy Manufacturing produces these devices in Williamsport, PA, and utilizes numerous Pennsylvania suppliers. We are also estimating the economic impact of Mealy Manufacturing's manufacturing activities on the Pennsylvania economy. This impact also includes a substantial indirect effect, as well as the induced multiplier effect. As you will agree, manufacturing is a crucial part of a healthy state economy. The sale of these devices generates sales tax for the state of Pennsylvania, along with income tax on the income generated. We've made preliminary estimates so far, and we'll complete our analysis in the coming weeks. Our preliminary estimate is that the Pennsylvania Skill amusement device has a substantial impact statewide with respect to job creation, income generation, and the generation of tax revenue. For the current year, we would expect a total economic impact on the state's gross domestic product of just shy of $1 billion, and that generates state tax revenue of $26 to $30 million. And we would expect those numbers to increase over the next few years. I now yield to Randy Wright to discuss the impact of skill games in Virginia.
Thank you. Please proceed.
My name is Randy Wright. I am a consultant for Queen of Virginia's Skill amusement devices. Let me first thank you for your public service. I, too, have served in various public roles in my home state, the Commonwealth of Virginia, including serving as a city councilman, a member of the State Board of Commerce for 7 years, and chaired the board for 2 of those years. Chaired a Virginia statewide Blue Ribbon Commission on Transportation in Urbanized Areas, and served as national chair of the Transit Board Members of North America. During that time, in that role, I worked with SEPTA, which was rated in the top 3 transit authorities in America, and I'm proud to have become personal friends with the then CEO, Rick Simonetta, and his wife, Bonnie. I still hold the distinction of having been the only chair to serve in that capacity for 3 years. For the purpose of today, I would like to discuss my service as Deputy Director of the Virginia Lottery from 2014 to 2018. Let me share with you the Virginia story regarding the Virginia Lottery and Queen of Virginia Skill amusement devices, which are the same Pennsylvania Skill amusement devices utilized in this Commonwealth. The Virginia Lottery had a record year in fiscal year 2019 with more than $2 billion in sales and profits of $606 million. At this point in fiscal year 2020, lottery sales are up over the 8.6% projections, which indicate profits will exceed $645 million this year. Since Queen of Virginia amusement devices were introduced in Virginia, our joint statistical data shows that where the lottery and skill amusement devices share locations, lottery sales have increased from 17 to 27% in profits. My point here is that skill amusement devices complement the lottery. Virginia Skill in casinos offer various games. In conclusion, the implementation of Virginia's skill amusement devices has contributed to the record-breaking years the Virginia Lottery has recorded. Thank you for allowing me to speak today.
Thank you, gentlemen. I believe we have some members that have questions. We'll start with Representative Dunbar.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you all for being here today. I think it's a conversation we certainly should be having. And I would assume my reputation is one as a pro-gaming legislator. I'm pretty certain that's everybody's view of mine. Although I am on Representative Hahn's bill here to make these machines illegal, I do believe that we have to first rein it in and then find ways of how we can actually regulate this industry. Right now, these machines are pretty prolific. How many are out there, would you say? Can somebody give me an estimate?
Over 12,000.
Over 12,000 of your machines.
Of our Pennsylvania skill machines.
And
yes,
there's
sir.
also other machines like it or similar to it.
Probably 2 to 3 times.
That are knockoffs that are not legal as far as do we know that number?
I do not.
There have been estimates, but they range anywhere from 20 to 40,000.
Okay. And that is, so we have an industry that's kind of unlicensed, unregulated. It's out there. Do you, as Pacematic, have an issue with being regulated, paying licensing fees, paying a per unit fee like every other casinos do for all their machines?
We have no objection to that. We are ready to sit down with this body and put together responsible legislation. We want it regulated. Many of you know when I've sat down to speak with you, you were a little bit surprised that we are coming in asking you to regulate us. It definitely needs regulation.
Along those lines, because I do see the gentleman wearing his shirts creating tax revenue, and I heard some discussion about tax revenue. Would you also be willing to be put on equal footing with the tax rates that the casinos are paying? As you know, we have a very prolific tax rate for our casinos.
We disagree with that because that will put our business, most of these people sitting behind me who are working or tavern owners, manage clubs, it will put them out of work because our machines are not fixed to win for the house like in a casino. Casinos' machines are set for the casino to win and for the customer to not win much. Ours are not manipulated. You can't set the machine to win. It's based totally on skill. So if you're talking about a 54%, it would practically wipe out the industry. It would close bars, restaurants, VFWs, volunteer fire organizations, etc.
Right now, if an individual would play your game and become very efficient at it and win, do they get a 1099?
That can't answer right now, but I'll get the information for you.
All right. And do we have any problem gaming aspects with your machines? Is there any 1-800-GAMBLER, any of those type of things with the machines?
That's all part of the legislation that we want to sit down and discuss and put together. And as far as your previous questions, if that is an integral part of the legislation as well, letting people know that you're going to play these machines and you're going to win money, you have to account for it. And it's got to go in your taxes, just like everyone else is paying taxes.
Yeah. Okay, thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Representative. Representative Mahaffey.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Representative Dunbar just talked about the machines that you've placed out into the marketplace, and then he said there's other machines. Can you tell me the difference between those two machines?
Yes, sir. The difference in Pennsylvania to have gambling, you have to have 3 elements: chance, consideration, and reward. Chance means it has to be a game of chance with little or no skill to win. Consideration is the wager to start the game, and then the reward is obviously something that must be greater than the consideration. So the difference is if you remove one of those elements, you no longer have gambling. In our machine, we obviously removed the element of chance. We introduced the element of skill, which therefore makes our game predominantly based on skill, therefore not a gambling device. A lot of these other devices are alleged skill machines, and as well as the illegal gambling devices out there. Basically, how they are played is you press a button and you win or lose. Just like in the casinos, when you press a button, you win or lose. Our game is not like that. For our games are dictated by the skill, patient, skillful player that can win 100% of the time. That is the major difference. Example I would like to give are the illegal video poker machines that are out there. If you have the best poker player in Pennsylvania come play these illegal poker machines, no matter how skillful they are, how patient they are, that machine will only let them win a percentage of the time. They are dictated by the software of the machine. No matter how skillful you are, you cannot win. With our machines, guaranteed every time you press a button, if you're patient and skillful enough, you can win 100% of the time.
The other machines, how can you tell the difference between yours and theirs if you're a player? Is there a distinct difference?
Well, there's many different types of machines out there, and all the software is different. There's not 2 or 3 styles of software. There's actually probably 40 or 50 styles of software. So telling the difference, which we have a lot of problems with, we have other companies that are not as transparent as us and are trying to duplicate our cabinets or make them look very similar, so people, when they come in, they think they're our Pennsylvania skill games when they really are not, and they're games based on chance and not skill.
Right. As a player, though, I mean, software is different, and I get that, and I'm okay with that. But if I walk up to a machine and yours is there and theirs right beside each other, how would I know one is a game of skill and one is just pot luck?
Go ahead, Tom.
First of all, our machine has on it Pennsylvania skill. And when you start playing that machine, you have to make moves. Whereas on a slot machine type, VGT, you just push a button and wait till everything stops, and then you push the button again. If I could, I'd like to take a moment to explain chance and skill. And I'm using definitions and Black's Law Dictionary, which is the holy grail for the courts. Chance, something that happens unpredictably, without intention or observable cause. The assumed impersonal, purposeless determiner of unaccountable happenings, contingency. Black's Law. Skill, practical, and familiar knowledge of the principles and processes of an art, science, or trade combined with the ability to apply them. So people play our machines, they have to make the next move.
Okay. One other question. You talk about that you have them in legions, VFWs, bar rooms, and so forth. I'm hearing that they're getting out into convenience stores and other places. Can you tell me what the amount is from your traditional bar, tavern, club, compared to how many are out in grocery stores or convenience stores?
I don't have that answer for you, sir, but I can certainly get that for you.
Perfect. Thank you very much, gentlemen. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Representative Johnson Harrell.
Good morning, Mr. Marino.
Morning.
I actually have a 3-part question. The first part to the question is, in order to play your machines, do you have to insert cash? Second part to the question, as a result of succeeding at the game, the individual plays, how are rewards determined? And the third part of the question is the reward for winning a monetary prize, or can it be exchanged for cash?
The part of your first question, you have to put money into it. The second part, didn't get the word that you said.
So is the reward as a result of succeeding at the game, because the game is skills-based, right?
Yes.
Individual plays, as the individual plays, how are the rewards determined?
If they can correctly continue through that game, accomplish what that particular game asks the person to accomplish, then they will win. And to your third question, yes, they are awarded monetary money, but it doesn't come out of the machine. It comes, a ticket comes out, and they have to take that ticket to the owner of the store or the bar to have it redeemed. And we are very, very sincere in saying we want that regulated, because we want proof to be shown to the location owner that that person is old enough to be playing that machine.
So there are levels to the skill.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, Representative. You're welcome.
Thank you. Representative Diamond.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you for your testimony today. I think I want to return to, yeah, my mic works. I don't know why. I want to return to the topic that Representative Mahaffey brought up because I think it really gets to the crux of why we in this body are now taking a look at this and why we appreciate you coming forth and asking for some sort of action. This is a Facebook comment I got from one of my constituents. She said, well, I hope you guys in Harrisburg ain't planning to make the Pennsylvania skill games at the clubs illegal. Some of us can't get out to the casino to play the slots. I think that's important because there are folks who don't go to the casinos who want this kind of opportunity, which you folks are providing. But I also believe that there are a lot of knockoffs out there. And that's really the reason I think that we're here, is because there are some games that are just not games of skill. They're being marked as games of skill. And that gets back to Representative Mahaffey's question, which, as a customer, you know, how does this lady, Sandra, when she goes into her club, how does she know that this is a legal, under the court's definitions, pay-o-matic game, or whether it's one of these knockoffs that somebody just slapped a Pennsylvania skill label on? And I think it really gets to the heart of the matter why you're here before us and why you're encouraging us to work with you on the legislation to regulate this industry. So again, how do I, as a customer, how does anybody who's going into whatever club, wherever, how do we know that that's a legal game or not a legal game?
Well, again, there's a whole bunch of softwares out there, and what we would like to do is actually sit down with legislation and actually come up with something. For example, we utilize QR codes in our machines, where law enforcement, for example, when they go start using some type of enforcement on these illegal machines, they could have an app or some type of software where they would be able to go in and scan it with a QR code, knowing that they are our games, our Pennsylvania skill legal games, instead of these illegal games. So we would love to sit down and discuss that with you further.
With all due respect, we're not talking about waiting for law enforcement to come around and check them out. I want to know how the customer knows that this is legal, or whether they're just going to be pushing a button and a game that's labeled a game of skill is actually a game of chance. How does a customer know when they go to the club on Saturday night?
What we are doing at this point is we are telling our customers or potential customers, you can't have these games here and have ours. As a matter of fact, we will pull ours out because these are illegal. You know what we want to do as far as the legislation is concerned, and we want tough enforcement. We say if our distributors and our location owners do not abide by our rules, and you're going to find that our rules are very strict rules, then we pull out, and then we also report to law enforcement that the machines that are there are illegal machines.
I appreciate that, but you can't be everywhere all the time, can you?
No, we can't. That's why we need That's why we need more law enforcement out there, and we're hoping that we're pretty sure the revenue that comes in will be able to establish more law enforcement.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think this gets to the bottom of why we actually need to do something on this matter, and I appreciate the hearing today.
Thank you, Representative. Representative O'Neill.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Gentlemen, thank you for coming. I'm personally a big proponent of clubs. I have many clubs in my area. I'm a lifetime member of the VFW myself. So I'm always concerned for the viability of clubs in particular. But with that said, I also want to make sure, as we consider what to do in this manner, that we're also we have the accurate information on both sides of the argument. So I really have two questions, and my first question is for Mr. Zaleski. You talked about the state tax revenue and the estimate generated state tax revenue based on your analysis of 26 to 30 million dollars in revenue. Can you break that down for us? What does that look like as far as what goes into that? You mentioned job creation and income generation and generation of tax revenue. How do you come up with what all goes into? Are you talking winning taxes, taxes that the company itself is paying? What all goes into that analysis?
Thank you. There's basically four main sources for that. Number one would be you've got the manufacturing of the machine. So there's the sales tax of the machine, and there's the income tax on the manufacturer. That's number one. Number two, you've got the revenue that's generated by the each time a fill is completed. So you have a sales tax on that. You've got an income tax for the establishment owners. You have income tax for the operators. That's all the direct effect, and those are the first two primary effects. The indirect effects we estimate to be a fraction of that, and that is for the added business, because now you've had the establishments have now hired on more workers, or they've outsourced more stuff. Merely manufacturing alone, they've outsourced steel manufacturing, steel processing at a local plant in Williamsport. The cabinetry is manufactured in Lancaster. They get electronic components from Malvern. And so there's a broad statewide impact. They actually prefer to do business with manufacturers in the state of Pennsylvania, and so all of that additional income is then taxable income. And then you have the final effect is what we call the induced multiplier effect. Now that everyone has the extra income that is generated, people will go out and spend, and a fraction of that is spent within the state of Pennsylvania, and that generates sales tax when the additional spending occurs.
Okay, so just so I understand it clearly, the $26 to $30 million does not include any additional tax that might be put on top of machines or any estimates or anything like that.
That assumes the current status quo, and that assumes all of the impacts that I just listed.
Great, thank you. And my second question is for Mr. Wright. I'm just curious. You talked about your experience with the Virginia Lottery and how that compares with the skills. But I'm not familiar enough with Virginia's system to know how accurately we can compare it to Pennsylvania. What's the status of gaming in Virginia? I'm not sure how much you know specifically about our gaming legislation, and I'm curious as to how that compares with Pennsylvania between the casino legislation that we have, lottery, and now the potential for skill.
Well, first off, we don't have any casinos in Virginia, just for your knowledge on that part. Secondly, we have actually worked in tandem with the Virginia Lottery, as I spelled out.
Right.
In other words, I would not have been able to have gotten the 17 to 27% profits when we statistically are in same locations. And so, in fact, just recently there was a comment made by deputy director, that said we have no problem with Virginia skill in Virginia. So.
Great. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Representative. For the record, I would just like to state that there are many committee meetings happening at the same time today. We have members that may leave to go to another meeting. We have members that have come in since we began, including Representative Mirsky, I believe, came in later, Representative Ferry, Representative Coffer. And I would like to say that we are going to go a little bit beyond what we had, the time element that we had for this particular portion, because there are so many questions. And next we would have a question from Representative Coffer.
Thank you, Chairman. I wanted to just follow up on a couple of questions that were asked before. Currently, your machines that are set up, they don't accept credit cards. It's cash only. Is that right?
Correct.
So, because I heard a couple people talking about problem gambling, and I'm probably most known on this committee for talking about problem gambling, especially when it comes to credit card gambling. I probably have a perspective of being anti-gaming, even though I'm not, but that's probably a perspective people have. But looking at that, I heard people talk a little bit about iGaming. And so I guess have you guys thought about that, of how that plays a role? Because currently, with iGaming coming online, you can gamble anywhere in Pennsylvania, but this is something to help our bars and tavern owners out. And I'm very sympathetic to that. I certainly think that we've done a lot for a lot of other industries and have been neglecting to help our bar and tavern owners. So I want, what do you think your interaction is going to be going forward with iGaming in Pennsylvania? Have you thought about that? Because obviously our law originally was set up to be destination gaming. iGaming sort of took away from that. This is getting back to the idea of destination gaming, and I'm just trying to hear a little bit of that perspective. I know it's probably a question you did not anticipate, but trying to get some perspective on that.
If I understand your question, we have, over the years, been redeveloping our software. As far as the iGaming is concerned, we've talked about that. We know what's coming. We know where we were 10 years ago, where we were 5 years ago, and now it's 6 months, things are changing. That's an important part, again, of sitting down with a legislative body and getting input from both sides. What are the pros and cons to iGaming compared to what we do, compared to what the casinos do? And I think we will come to a consensus that it's going to be the right way to go about this. There is a lot of discussion that needs to take place on this, and that is why we're here.
I appreciate it. Look forward to having a full discussion on this and getting to a resolution on this. Thank you.
Representative Mirsky.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and I want to thank the panel for coming in today with their testimony and to take questions. Just a few questions. Drilling down a little deeper into the numbers, we're talking about revenues. How many machines do you currently have in circulation?
Approximately 12,000.
And what do you anticipate? What's your goal? I mean, obviously you're here to make money. So what's the outcome if we pass something, or if we take this statewide? And
As many as legislation will allow.
okay, and then what's the largest number of machines that you have in one location?
I'm not sure about that, but our current internal regulations only allows, should only allow locations to have no more than 5 machines.
5 machines? And what's the average weekly gross revenue per machine?
I don't have that information, so I can get that.
Can you get that for me? And then how's the revenue, because I don't understand, this is new to me, I'm a freshman. How's the revenue divided between you guys, the clubs, and the people who win?
How it works is, the revenue is, we consider what we say 40-40-20. Basically 40% goes to the location, 40% goes to the operator, and 20% goes to the manufacturer.
Okay, and so who's responsible for paying out the prizes then? The club or the bar? Or do you guys do that, or?
Paying out the what, sir? I'm sorry.
Is there what do they get a reward, right, for winning the game?
Yes, sir.
What do they get?
A reward, yes.
What kind of reward?
Money.
They get money.
Yes, sir.
So who's responsible for paying the money?
The location.
The location, so the bar or tavern?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And then is there like a minimum payout percentage on your machines? Like in gaming, we have a percentage, like 85% gets paid out.
No, sir. That would make that a gambling device. We do not have that.
So is there, and then my last question, in the testimony you said that your machines do not get increasingly difficult as they do with the poker machines, correct?
Correct.
There is the capacity though for you to do that, right? Software-wise.
Certainly there's a capacity to do that because of the ever-changing technology out there. Our machines do not do that. Our machines, we cannot go in and set how much the business is going to win. We're a game of skill, not a game of chance that's it's in a casino, or these knockoffs are doing with labels that we have on our machines put on theirs. Theirs, they just push a button and hope they win.
So how do you install the software on it, on the machine?
It's implemented right into the rest of the hardware with the machine, coded. We keep stepping that up on a regular basis. As the corporal said, we'll be able to install a code where even law enforcement can come in, check that code to see if it's a legitimate and legal machine. And the beauty of this is also there's a tally that we keep a record of what goes into those machines, what comes out, and if law enforcement or any investigative agency that has reason to need that information, we're going to make sure it is supplied. If they say Tom Marino has a business and he's making, he has machines in there and making money, and it's been, the business has been observed, and law enforcement thinks there's something going on, and they go in and ask Tom Marino, how much money did you make last week? Oh, I only made $100. Well, Tom Marino I'm using me because I don't want anybody else. That's very easy just to make a number up. But we have a complete, accurate accounting of that electronically back to our manufacturer, where the individual, when their number of what they've purchased in the past ends, they call us up and ask for more, and electronically it's transferred. So we have a very good accounting system.
Could you then get me the payout percentage for these machines?
We'll do the best we can.
Thank you. No further questions.
Thank you. Representative Deloso.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and I'd like to thank the panel. I just have a couple of quick questions. I'm underlining things in your testimony, and one of the things I underlined was countless jobs that have been created, and then the small businesses which have been saved, VFW's Legions, volunteer firefighter halls. I have to ask what the countless jobs are that have been created, and I'd also like to ask if we're single-handedly, if the games of skill, and let me preface this by saying I'm okay with games of skill. There's a place for games of skill. My biggest concern is that the residents of Pennsylvania don't be brandished as perennial losers, and that the workers of Pennsylvania get their fair share of the revenue that's created by games of skill. So when I see that we've saved Legions, fire halls, and VFWs, I wondered that there might be a lot of losing going on. And secondly, the countless jobs, I'm curious as to where the jobs come from. It's been my experience with games of skill that there's, 1, 2, or 3 put in a Legion or put in a firehouse or put in a bar, and the bar owner doesn't hire anyone additional to treat it as if it's a slots parlor. So I guess, in short, my question is, the type of jobs created, could you tell me what the type of jobs are created outside of manufacturing?
Sure.
And are we, I know percentage-wise we can be a winner every time, but are we losing too much?
No, I can sit here and honestly say, no, we're not losing, and we're not going to be in a position where we're going to lose too much, because, again, our games are games of skill. We can't rule out manufacturing, because I have to give you some examples. As I said in my opening statement, Mr. Bailey's business several years ago had 12 people. He has well over 100 now. There's a steel plant in Williamsport. My grandfather worked there. They almost went out of business. They were at the point where they couldn't do it anymore. They are forming steel for us, and they said business is booming. You're going to hear testimony from some of these people behind us that operate the clubs, operate restaurants, and they're saying, we have hired another person. I had to put a waitress on. I'm buying more food from the vendor who sells me food, and we're going to have exact numbers, pretty exact numbers on those as we tally, and what you hear from the people that are going to testify shortly. But it's just not going to be a job here and a job there, because we know what fire departments, now certainly the volunteers, that's not a job, but the fire departments are saying to us, if it weren't for your game of skill in here, we wouldn't have been able to buy that new ambulance. You're going to hear this stuff in better detail and more eloquently explained once the second panel comes up here, because they face it. I can tell you this, that we have had some owners of businesses say that they wanted us to remove the machines because they weren't making as much money, nearly as much money as they were on the other machines, the illegal machines.
Well, thank you, Congressman. I'm looking forward to that type of testimony. One of my, like I say, my biggest concern is that everyday Pennsylvanians aren't perennial losers, and that everyday workers in Pennsylvania, when I hear things like a 40-40-20 split, I'm wondering what share of that's going to the employees. And that's what I'm looking forward to. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, sir. Representative Johnson-Harrell.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Can this body get a copy of the rules for Pace-O-Matic?
Absolutely.
Okay, wonderful.
We are putting together a playbook.
Okay.
That's my responsibility. That's why I was brought on. And it's almost complete. We're waiting for the final numbers to come through from the economic impact statement. And we will be able to supply you that information. And you don't have to wait until we get the economic impact statement completed. We'll get that to you as soon as possible.
Okay, what are the ages for players to be able to participate? Is it 21? Is it 18?
It's 18.
It's 18. So, of course, there could be unintended consequences, and minors could have access to this. Are there things in place to ensure that minors do not have access to this? And are there consequences that for businesses that possibly would allow minors to participate?
Yes, I explained a little bit earlier. There are unintended consequences. But again, that's part of why we want to sit down with you and discuss the legislation on where things are put, where they're placed. And there, as I stated earlier, if a location owner or distributor doesn't follow the rules that you will see, we take our machines out. And if the illegal ones are in there, we will report that. It's just, it's a ticket system. They have to put cash in the machine. They don't get cash out of the machine. They retrieve it from, say, the bar owner or the convenience store owner. That owner has to make sure that they ask for identification for that individual and it matches up. So that in itself discourages minors from playing these machines.
Thank you.
I do have one thing I would like to say about this, too. We're regulating. I've seen minors walk up to lotto machines and put money in and get tickets out. And they don't go to the cashier and say, hey, I would want these tickets and not have to tell their age. So, we're way ahead of the curve on this as far as minors playing. Now, the minor can't get cash reward there right away, but that minor certainly can take that ticket to somebody who is 18, a buddy or a family member, and say, go get this money. Not in our business.
Thank you. We've been joined by Representative Chris Quinn and Representative Ed Nielsen. And just a moment, sir. And we have a question from Chairman Scott Conklin.
I just want to do a follow-up on the good lady's question. You've spoke a few times about you have your own set of ethics or regulations you put in. Is that in a handbook that you give out to the participants within the program when they have the machines?
It's part of a contract when you establish a relationship with the business owner.
Could you give us a copy of that just so we can have an understanding where you're coming from?
Yes, we will.
On the second question, and I have to tell you, I have a gentleman came to see me who was barely making ends meet. He has some six-pack shops, and he told me the money he's making off these machines in his six-pack shops is unbelievable. So he's a huge advocate for him. He's very thrilled with it. I got another question for you. When it comes to payouts, I stopped at a establishment to get some gas, walked in. They have a six-pack shop. Guys were sitting there, and ladies were partaking with your machine. I mean, I think there were 7 of them at the time, so I may have miscounted, but I believe there's 7. But the one gentleman was very excited when he won, and he went up to cash in. And rather than getting one payout, they paid him $4.95, a slip for another $4.95, a slip for another $4.95. Why would they do that?
Well, not being an accountant, but being a federal prosecutor and working with the IRS, I would question that. And if whatever the sum amount is for winning that particular game should be paid out and not broken up and handed out that way.
Is that when you set those up, do you tell folks they aren't allowed to do that? I mean, is that part of your guidelines when you're helping set the establishments up?
Absolutely not. That's something done by just the location.
So it's nothing you would say you can't do this. It's up to the location if they so decide.
We can make sure that we address this as well, not only in the legislation, but in our contracts.
Is there any way that a minor could win on that game, walk out of the store with a ticket, and come back and hand it to somebody to come back in and cash out?
Yes.
There.
Because it's not being.
When we look at regulations within this job, again, I'm somebody who chairs the gaming committee, was one of the votes to allow casinos in, and I've never spent $1 in a gambling machine in my life. I mean, I'm neither for nor against it. I believe in free will, but as we go through this and we look at the stringent regulations that we put on casinos, and one of the pushbacks we're getting right now is that with the new law, even the truck stops that want to have the machines in aren't very happy about the way we want to monitor to make sure that it's done in a way that doesn't hurt the public, that is done in an honest way. Is this something that you want to work with us with to make sure that the establishments that have these and they're put in to make sure that all the roles are played by that we make sure that there aren't these multiple, and you knew, and the congressman, you knew exactly, when I was standing there, I knew exactly why those slips were being paid out, and multiple slips and not one slip. Is this something you want us as a legislative body to do, to bring in many of these restringent standards that we've put into other gambling casinos, gaming facilities, to make sure that it's done properly, to make sure that cash isn't done under the table, to make sure that slips aren't done in multiple ways, to make sure that children aren't involved in this? Is this something that you are asking for us to do?
1,000%. And let me add to that, my background. I put the bad guys away with a good team of prosecutors and staff. I would not tarnish. If my father were alive, he said, you have two things, and you have your word and your credibility, 3, and your children that you take with you. I would not be working for a company that would not do something like that. We are well on our way. We are putting legislation together. We are putting an outline together to sit with you folks and ask you, what do you think of this? And what do we not have in here? And what should we put in there?
Thank you.
Thank you, Chairman. Representative Deloso.
Real quick, if Charlie Babbitt and the Rain Man were sitting there, they could hit the 105, right? Do you have any safeguards in there to prevent the washing of dirty money laundering? I mean, theoretically, somebody that's super skilled could wash dirty money through the machines. Or is there a mechanism to prevent that? Can you track play? I mean, can you track a guy that comes in and throws 20 grand in and walks away with 18?
We can track the play electronically. Hopefully, our legislation, we want to track that play for a tax purpose as well. But you're saying things that can happen with a lot of machines. So there's always a way. I've always found a way as a prosecutor at some point, it doesn't smell right, and follow the money.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Representative Ferry.
Just a quick question since we're so far behind. How are you going to handle the exclusion list for problem gamblers?
Yeah, we're going to sit down and talk about that. But once again, it's not a gambling device. It's a game of skill. So if somebody's going to put, you laugh about that, but I really wish we've had the opportunity. We invited a lot of people to come and use our machines. Many didn't. I'd like to invite anybody to come and show you what level of skill is needed to do that. And we'll figure out, hopefully we can figure out what to do for someone. If there's a report, we'll have a number that they can call. We can get on top of that. We get a complaint from a family member saying somebody just put the check in there.
With all due respect, Congressman, if somebody has an addiction issue, so let's say whiskey's my ill. If I can't get whiskey, I'll take gin because I have an addiction issue and I want to chase that. Mm-hmm. So if somebody can't get into a casino because they're on the exclusion list and they have access to a game of skill, they may very well chase that. And the reason I bring this up is there was an incident that happened in Bucks County where one of my colleagues had a very upset mother of an adult son that drugged the son to my colleague's office and was blaming a local casino for allowing him in, and he was on the exclusion list, and he spent a significant amount of money. Well, it turned out he was at the local tavern playing a game of skill, and that's what my point is. I think that's something important to look at because the casinos obviously work very hard to honor that. I don't know how it gets addressed through the games of skill. I just think it's important for the committee to have that point raised.
Well, that's what we have to do when we sit down and discuss the matters, and we're all in on preventing someone who's addicted to gambling. But how do you do it with a lotto machine?
I think playing an amusement type device is a lot different than a scratch off.
I don't think so, because I've seen where people stand there and buy ticket after ticket after ticket, and when I just want to get my one lotto ticket through, as they're playing scratch offs, give me another one, give me another one, give me another one. There's a similarity there.
I keep hearing you bring up the lottery, though, and what I have to say is, under your theory, then, if we wanted to eliminate problem gambling, we should eliminate the lottery then, too. Or if we wanted to eliminate underage people from having access to it, we should eliminate the lottery, too.
And my point is to you just that. You made my point for me, because we're not going to eliminate the lotto, and we're not going to stop underage gambling, but we can have laws to try and prevent it as much as possible.
If I could, I would invoke that in the Commonwealth of Virginia, the Virginia Lottery works hand in glove with Gamblers Anonymous, and we contribute money and we help them do PSA notices and things of that nature. So it is a problem that the lottery deals with, at least in Virginia and nationally too. If I could say just one more quick thing that I think is an important note. Operators in Virginia for the first time are able to provide full health care benefits for their employees, which I think is pretty neat, and that's as a result of the success of our skill games.
Thank you. Representative Johnson-Harrell.
You just made a statement about preventing underage gambling. In the Commonwealth, you have to be 21 years old to gamble. I want to make a suggestion rather than ask a question. I would suggest that you raise the age from 18 to 21.
We know that's going to come up, and we're willing to sit down and discuss that. We're open-minded with that.
Thank you.
I'm sorry, Chairman.
I believe that we had
Congressman,
wrapped it up, but go ahead.
We appreciate you being here. I'm over here behind Josh. Josh is pretty big. But this is something that you should be doing on your own now moving forward. You say you're going to work with us. This is something that it's 21 now. You should be doing that already instead of your 18. And you know, and I joined on this legislation because there are no rules. And you have a stellar record, and I'm glad they brought you on board at this late time. This has been an issue going on up here for 5-6 years now. So I'm glad they brought you aboard, and maybe you can set some rules for us. But to say you're willing to work with us, that's great. That's because we're looking to make something legal that we believe is not legal. So doing something wrong now isn't going to motivate me to work with you at all later. And I just wanted to make sure everybody knew that, because this is something you can be doing today, and you choose not to. So I just ask that as you step forward, don't say, oh, well, we're willing to work with you on that. Come in here with a stellar product. Come in here with something that we want to do, so we don't have to go through all these rules and don't have to create this legislation. And you know, I worked with your office before as a prosecutor. You always did a stellar job. And I hope you can really bring this to a place it needs to be. Right now, it's not where it needs to be.
I understand, and we'll work to get to that place.
Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you. Appreciate the testimony from this group, and I would like to ask the next group to come up. We have Nicole Millet, Director of Charitable Giving, John Dunkelberger, Administrator, Manager of Moose Lodge 145, Bill Regal, Volunteer Firefighter from Middletown Fire Department, and Del Guarini, President of Pennsylvania Amusement and Music Machine Association.
That one? Oh, thank you. Okay.
Okay. Nicole, is it Millet or have I mispronounced? Millet, please proceed.
Thank you. My name is Nicole Mealy, and I'm the Director of Charitable Giving for Pennsylvania Skill. I also own the manufacturing company who produces the games, Mealy Manufacturing, with my husband, Lou. I would again like to thank all the members of the committee for this opportunity to address you on our Pennsylvania Skill amusement devices, and specifically the ways we have worked to support local charities in Pennsylvania. Before I begin, I want to state that I have a unique appreciation for the work our state's law enforcement does on a daily basis, as my father was a corporal in the Bureau of Criminal Investigations with the state police. I am proud that our company works with so many retired troopers, and I have the utmost respect for the rule of law. With so many illegal gaming machines in the marketplace, I'm proud that our company manufactures and distributes legal games of predominant skill. In October of last year, Mealy Manufacturing and Pacematic launched Pennsylvania Skill Charitable Giving with the mission of improving the quality of life for our fellow Pennsylvanians. We have worked with our operators, customers, legislators, and local elected officials to identify causes that are near and dear to their hearts, and encouraged nonprofit organizations and charities to visit our website and apply for assistance. Donation applications are reviewed on a monthly basis, and we have yet to turn anyone down. We also have put in place a match program for our operators to encourage them to be charitable. Since October, we are on track to deliver nearly $500,000 in donations. We have made major contributions to the Meadows, a retirement center that allows seniors the ability to have an independent lifestyle, Children's Hospitals of Philadelphia and Pittsburgh, Ronald McDonald Houses, the Keystone Elk Country Alliance, volunteer firefighters, food banks, Girls on the Run, after-school programs, opioid treatment programs, libraries, the Humane Society, and many, many more. None of this would be possible without the revenue produced by Pennsylvania Skill amusement devices. If these amusement devices were to go away, these charitable contributions would be forced to stop. The charity and good deeds produced by Pennsylvania Skill amusement devices goes far beyond the checks that we are distributing. The operators, small business owners, VFWs, volunteer fire departments, and club owners are hiring new employees, rehabbing their buildings, replacing outdated equipment, and increasing their own charitable contributions in their communities. We have countless stories like this from many Pennsylvanians. Behind each story is a family or individual whose life has been changed for the better. These devices are making a positive impact on our economy, and I know that if our legal position is cemented, we will continue to make this impact today and in the future. As one last aside, the benefits of these devices is being felt by real Pennsylvanians across the Commonwealth. For example, we have an operator whose wife was diagnosed with cancer. She needed a highly specialized treatment that was not provided in her area, and their insurance did not cover it. Due to the success of Pennsylvania Skill, that operator is able to take his wife to the Cleveland Clinic to receive the best care possible. Last fall, we received many happy letters and photos from operators and customers as they sent their kids off to college, many saying it probably would not have been possible without Pennsylvania Skill Amusement Devices. These books are full of testimonials and statements from charities that we've given to, and I would love for you to go through these books. You may go through them at any time. They're real stories, real people in Pennsylvania. Thank you, and I'll hand it over to John.
Thank you. And we do have your written remarks every committee person has, so as you may choose to read them if you would like, or a condensed version at your desire. Thank you.
Thank you, Nicole. My name is John Dunkelberger. I'm the Administrator and Social Quarters Manager for Moose Lodge 145 in Williamsport. I'm here to testify about the tremendous financial support our Moose Lodge has yielded from our 4 Pennsylvania Skill Amusement Devices. Pennsylvania Skill has been a lifeline for many Moose and other fraternal clubs around the Commonwealth. Before the introduction of these devices, our club was struggling. The revenue we generate from the Pennsylvania Skill Amusement Devices help us pay for overhead costs, which allow us to donate and help our community. Prior to these amusement devices, we struggled to pay our overhead costs, and our club was in desperate need of repairs and updates. We have gone from 3 to 11 employees, and our membership has increased. We are a volunteer organization, and we depend on having our members attend and want to participate in the club. These amusement devices has helped and provided an entertainment source that is encouraging our members to come and stay longer. Our club has been able to reinvest in our building. We are now able to make much needed improvements and update equipment. Additionally, our charitable donations to the community have increased dramatically. We were able to make $14,000 in charitable contributions last year to support the Salvation Army Little League parades. We even were able to establish a scholarship at the local high school with Pennsylvania Skill. We plan to do even more next year. I am active in the Moose organization, and I am often called in to help other Moose clubs who require assistance with their books. I can tell you firsthand that without Pennsylvania Skill Amusement Devices, many of these clubs could not go on operating. This is a fact. Without Pennsylvania Skill Amusement Devices, I am not sure how long we could operate as efficiently, if at all. On behalf of our Moose Club and other clubs like it across the Commonwealth, I would encourage you to regulate this industry and keep Pennsylvania Skill legal. Thank you, and I would like to introduce Bill Riggle from the Middletown Fire Department.
Thank you for allowing me to say a few words. I want to start off by thanking you for your service, and I want you to know we all appreciate the work you do to make our Commonwealth a better place. My name is Bill Riggle, and I've served as a volunteer firefighter for the Middletown Fire Department. In addition to my service as a volunteer firefighter, I help operate the Rescue Firemen's Home Association, which is a social club for members of the volunteer fire department, retired members, their family, and supporters. We have about 350 members. I've been around Middletown Fire Department my entire life. My father was a volunteer firefighter and ran the club for over 30 years. Our department services the Middletown, Londonderry Township, and surrounding areas. In addition to my service with the fire department, I've worked in the trucking industry my entire life, and I'm currently a driving instructor for FedEx Freight. I'm here to testify about the positive impact Pennsylvania Skill has made for the Rescue Firemen's Home Association and the Middletown Volunteer Fire Department. Before our club brought 2 Pennsylvania Skill amusement devices in, we were struggling to make ends meet. Now our club is doing much better. We're able to make meaningful charitable donations to our volunteer fire department in the area. 2 years ago, we brought in our first Pennsylvania Skill amusement device, We immediately started to see success. Now we have added a second device. That success has continued. We have gone from barely making ends meet to bringing in a profit. This has allowed us to invest in our volunteer fire company. In 2017, we were able to make a $7,500 donation to the Middletown Fire Department. In 2018, we were able to make a $10,000 contribution. This year, we hope to do even more. While those contributions may not seem like a lot of money, they have a real impact on our fire department. Those funds help to cover training expenses for new volunteer firefighters, help to purchase and repair equipment. These donations can literally make the difference between our department having the tools we need to save lives and property. Recruiting volunteers and having the resources to operate a volunteer fire department is not easy. Having these extra resources are critical. I'm a major supporter of Pennsylvania Skill Amusement Devices, and I want you to know that they're helping fire departments all across the Commonwealth. Thank you for allowing me to speak today. I'd like to introduce Del Guarini.
Thank you. Good morning. My name is Del Guarini. I'm president of PAMA, the Pennsylvania Amusement and Music Machine Association. I'm also the owner of Frank Guarini Vending Machines Incorporated. This year we are celebrating our 80th year. We lease, maintain coin-operated music devices such as internet jukeboxes, arcade games, Pennsylvania skill games to businesses across the Commonwealth. Currently, PAMA has over 80 coin-operated members. Many of these are small family businesses in Pennsylvania. Like mine, some have been handed down from one generation to the next. I'm here to report that many of these operators who were struggling just years ago are thriving since the introduction of Pennsylvania skill amusement devices. Before Pennsylvania skill amusement devices, operators were still marketing their core games: jukeboxes, pool tables, dartboards, as we still do. However, the other half of our business, video games, were or are in the process of collapsing. With the introduction of gaming on smartphones, the arcades have disappeared. In many ways, our struggles are tied to the same struggles many of our malls and retailers are facing with the push to online shopping. Operators have had a hard time buying new equipment and maintaining their old equipment. Their vehicle fleets were aging, and they were unable to pay existing employees or bring new ones on. Worse yet, the struggles the operators were facing mirrored the struggles that many bars, taverns, VFWs, American Legions, and other clubs were facing. Many of these locations counted on support from the operators. The operators couldn't support these locations, so the locations started to cut hours. This in turn meant less revenue for operators, and the entire industry was failing. However, now that Pennsylvania skill amusement devices have been introduced to the market, things have improved dramatically. These amusement devices have given our consumers a reason to stop in and stay longer in locations. Our locations have expanded hours again, hired more employees, and made much needed improvements to their establishments, from fixing roofs to replacing floors. This success has had a direct impact on our operators, many of whom are here today. Operators are now able to purchase new equipment, to hire additional employees, to help with their increased demands. For the first time in decades, things are looking up for our industry. The one concern is the lack of regulation and stability in the market. Our operators would like to see the industry regulated. We'd like to see the illegal machines removed from the market and the legal Pace-O-Matic Pennsylvania skill amusement devices given more stability. This will allow our operators to plan long-term for their future. The worst thing that could happen to our industry is to ban Pennsylvania skill amusement devices. If they are banned, operators, locations, clubs, and taverns will go back to struggling, and some will go out of business and eventually close. Pace-O-Matic Pennsylvania skill amusement devices have been a lifelong to many struggling family businesses in our industry. And we would encourage you to keep these devices legal and weed out illegal devices, games that are hurting the marketplace. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Question from Representative Mahaffey.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, everyone, for your testimony. Nicole, thank you. We in the district are thankful for what you've done. I can tell you the Humane Society you mentioned is in my district, so that was great. They're doing a new addition there. That goes light years for them. I mean, you know, most of their stuff has to come from contributions, so that was great. The other thing was that you donated to the Royalton Senior Center. The Royalton Senior Center usually gets about $5,000 a year from 3 Mile Island. Now that in its closure, what you've given will help hopefully offset that, and hopefully they can stay open. It's very thin, and that money that 3 Mile Island gave to them and Exelon gave to them was what kept the doors open. Unfortunately, that's not going to happen anymore. So what you've done there is greatly appreciated. Bill, constituent, Middletown, it's in the district. I appreciate everything you guys do. I know you have a tough time down there. It's a small group, and they do a fabulous job for the Middletown area, Lower Swatara, throughout the whole district. You guys do a fabulous job. I know you condensed, and now it's, you know, all into Liberty there, so it's all one firehouse. The one thing that I get worried about, and if we're going to do this legislation, what we need to be cognizant about is because you guys, I think, received probably close to about $500,000 from the gaming revenue as far as the local share that the county has. I know when we first got in, I think you guys got around 325 and last year, or 300, and then I think lately you got, I think, 125 for that new piece of apparatus you guys are going for. So this is something that I would like to see, and we got to make sure that we have a good understanding of what's going to happen here, as far as we don't want it to affect that local share, because majority of that local share that we get goes toward our emergency services. So that's something, as this legislation goes on, and if we're talking about that, I think that's super important. But Bill, thank you for being here. Nicole, thank you for what you guys have done and your generous contributions throughout the district. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Representative Nielsen.
Thank you, Chairman. Thank you all for coming today and testifying before a committee. The charitable donations you're making, it's substantial, 14,000, 10,000. I've had complaints from some of my owners back home. So someone comes in, delivers a machine, 1 week, they get 20%. Next week, we didn't do so good, you only get 10%. Can you tell me how much you get annually? How much does that machine bring in? Maybe break it down by machine. Because giving out $14,000 and $10,000, that's a lot of money. How much does the club get? How much do you have to pay to bring these machines in to allow you to make these substantial contributions? So say it's like, does it bring 100,000 in? You get 100. This one gets 10,000, and then you know what I mean? I hope I try to make it easy.
Yes, I could answer that. Basically, we get the machines from an operator that purchases that machine from PA Skills.
So you own the machine?
No, sir. PA Skills owns the machine.
Excuse me. The operator owns the machine and places it in a location.
So I'm trying to figure out how much are you taking in on each machine? How much are you bringing in? How much is gambled there? How much the club's getting? And how much do you have to kick back to the operator?
There's a 20%.
I'm sorry.
Oh.
This isn't, I'm not asking the operator. They have the machines. You know what I mean? So
it's broke down to the 20, 40, 40 split.
okay, because my people at home, I'm from the small city of Philadelphia, okay? And they get shaken a little bit. 1 week they do good, they get a lot. 1 week they don't, they don't. So that's what I'm trying to see what's happening across the other state. That's why I'm asking you this question. Because I have bar owners that says, I will have this, but we didn't do good this week.
That's specifically because it's a game of skill. One week you have someone that does well on the machine. Other weeks you have people don't do as well on the machine. So it varies what you're going to take in from week to week.
I understand the dollar amount. That's why I was asking the overall. But the 20, the 20, 40, 40 split.
20, 40, 40. 20 for
Okay.
licensing, 40%,
20 for licensing.
40% for you, and 40% for the operator.
Who's the so 40% for the machine maker? I'm trying to figure who machine comes from Nicole, right? She drops it off at your place. So there's 40, 40, and 20. I'm missing a part there. You get 40, they get 60?
Yeah.
Yes, please, Nicole. Yes, I'm sorry.
Okay.
I'm just trying to grasp
okay.
this.
We sell the machines to an amusement operator.
So you sell it to the gentleman down the
So
end?
Dell
Okay.
Green is an amusement operator.
So now he owns the machine?
He does.
Okay.
He places that machine in locations that want them.
Okay.
There is a licensing fee of 20%.
Who licensed those machines? The state?
The manufacturer.
Asematic and Mealy Manufacturing.
Okay.
And then the rest is split between Dell and the location.
All right. Gotcha. All right. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you.
Thank you all. Thank you.
Representative Deloso.
I'm going to jump right back on the 40, 20, 20, and I'll try not to be long because the state troopers have been standing too long. On the 40, 40, 20, the first 40%, the 40% that goes to the club is the only 40% in play. Am I correct? Is it 40% of the total revenue goes to the machine owner? Or does the machine owner also have money? When I say in play, I mean take less if there's big winnings.
Well, if there's less winning, in other words, the percentages come into play if there's a profit or what that profit is. So some weeks, these machines actually go in the hole. I mean, it's not unusual for us to go in and the owner says, well, we're in the hole this week. And that's because certain locations have players that are more skillful. If they were set that we could percentage them, you'd never go in the hole.
So that is to say that the machine owner, the operator, I guess is called, so the operator can take a loss also?
Correct.
Lastly, in the 40-40 Pennsylvania State Lottery, 25 cents on every dollar goes to older Americans. Older Pennsylvanians, I should say. So I have to ask a question about the last 20% that goes back to the licensing fee. The manufacturer sells a machine and then essentially has a 20% tail tied to that machine for, I guess, its useful life. That having been said, Mealy donated $500,000 last year, and I presume that they were charitable donations. But of that $500,000, and this is a tough question to ask, and you may not be able to answer it for proprietary reasons, but of that $500,000, what percentage of the 20% is that $500,000? Because if this was a lottery function, we know 25% go to older Pennsylvanians. Because it's not a lottery function and it's a private function, older Pennsylvanians or Pennsylvanians in general aren't locked into a percentage. Now, all the ancillary stuff is fantastic. All the jobs we've created and everything that goes along with that is fantastic. But this does detract from the lottery. So I'm asking by percentage, what is the, I guess, Mealy, what is the, Miss Mealy, what is the contribution by percentage? Is it anywhere close to 25% of your revenue on licensing?
Representative, I'll have to get that answer for you. I don't know the exact percentage. I just know that with our charitable donations do come out of a portion of that 20%, along with some other things that we have to take care of business-wise for that 20%, including licensing of software and work that goes into the software at all times. But I will get you that number.
Thank you.
Thank you. Chairman Conklin.
Mine's a fairly simple one. Because of the terrible job we did with the small games a chance, most of our private clubs are where you're at today. If we would have fixed that, things would be differently. But as we're going through this, and this is just a curiosity question, I believe I know the answer to it. For the clubs, and of course I've worked with the gentleman with music for years because it's been a changing industry. Are you here for Pace-O-Matic, or are you here because you're asking us as a legislative body, please don't take that revenue source away from your clubs, please don't take that revenue source away from your members, and are you asking us to please come up with a solution that you can still be able to have some type of game within your facility that's able to make money, able to allow you, especially the nonprofits. I mean, you all just do an amazing job of helping out the kids. So that's my question. Are you here for Pace-O-Matic, or are you here to ask this legislative body, please don't mess this up again like we did the small game a chance, and just give us an opportunity to keep our clubs open and help our communities? That's a simple question just for you guys.
Say both.
You're here for Pace-O-Matic?
Both.
You're here for Pace-O-Matic? So if we came up with another solution, and we may come up with Pace-O-Matic, but if we come up with another solution that allows you to do what you're doing today, you wouldn't be for it. You just want Pace-O-Matic.
You haven't come up with another solution.
That's what I'm asking. That's what I'm asking. It's just, this isn't, I have no dog in the fight with Pace-O-Matic either. I'm just curious because there's a lot of different mechanisms moving right now.
I think the whole key for us as a state association and the state operators that are in the association is the fact that Pace-O-Matic's machine has been adjudicated. Yeah. So we feel comfortable. I've been approached by 20 other manufacturers with better splits, this, that, and the other thing. They're not games of skill.
No.
First thing they would tell us was, hey, and by the way, we can adjust the percentages and you can give the location a better cut and whatever. And I said, hey, we don't want to go there. That's not what we're interested in. So Pace-O-Matic has put their money where their mouth is. And they've decided that from day one, our first meeting that we had with Liquor Control Enforcement, they wanted to go in the front door. Okay? They wanted to do it the right way.
But and the reason I'm asking this, even folks from the company has come to us and is changing the percentage what they're willing to give the state, which changes all your percentages as well.
Well, in other words, we realize that if the machines are going to be legalized, that the state would, secure some kind of percentage, which we would rather do because we're looking for a long-term solution. We're looking for something that our employees know that they're going to have good jobs 10 years from now, not 2 weeks from now.
Well, we're all on the same page. I just wanted to make sure that, because to be honest with you, it means a lot more to me if you're here just looking for a solution, which may be Pace-O-Matic or just looking for a solution, than it does that you're here for a manufacturer. I'll be honest with you, it really does. It means a lot more to me if you're after a solution and not here for a manufacturer. Again, I have nothing against Pace-O-Matic at all, nothing whatsoever.
Well, like I say, I think the key is they've come up with what we feel is the best solution. And they're willing to take and do whatever's necessary by the type of staff that they have to try to work with legislators to implement that.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you all for your testimony. That's all the questions we have for this group. I'd like to invite Drew Svitko, Executive Director of the Pennsylvania Lottery. Thank you, Drew. Please proceed.
Thank you, Chairman Marshall, Chairman Conklin, members of the committee. Thank you for allowing us to come here and share our perspective on this issue and how and talk about the ways that Pennsylvania skill games are directly influencing our business and directly hurting our ability to generate funds for older Pennsylvanians. At the current saturation rate, a team of economists has analyzed these machines for us over the last couple years. At the current saturation rate, approximately $138 million a year in lost sales as a direct result from these illegal machines. Those are funds that would, those dollars would help us generate profit for older Pennsylvanians and fund critical programs. These illegal machines are undercutting our purpose, the public purpose of the state-funded, state-sanctioned gaming available through the lottery. So how's that happening? At first glance, the machines appear to be, often to our players, appear to be Pennsylvania lottery machines. They're often placed right next to our machines, and there is often confusion with our players. Our players contact us with questions that are actually questions about those machines and not ours. So there's a great perception that these machines are Pennsylvania lottery machines. Currently, more than 21%, more than one in five Pennsylvania lottery retailers have at least one of these illegal machines. And then last year, that number's doubled, gone up more than 100%. And unchecked, a year from now, I suspect it would double again. And that $38 million a year would go up accordingly. In addition, these illegal machines are hurting our ability to recruit new retailers, specifically for the new monitor games that were passed as a result of Act 42 of 2017. Keno and monitor games were allowed for in that legislation and were important to the lottery to expand our presence in retail, reach new players, and generate even more funds for older Pennsylvanians. But since then, we've been told by potential retailers that because of those machines are there and because of their profitability, that they did not want the Pennsylvania Lottery monitor games. So I'd just like to also stress the importance of the lottery's mission. We remain the only U.S. lottery to dedicate 100% of its proceeds toward older residents. Since we started selling tickets in 1972, we've generated more than $29 billion for those good causes, for programs that are enriching the lives of older Pennsylvanians all around the Commonwealth. But that's being threatened every day by these illegal machines. And there's a potential for hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars moving forward, and potentially billions of dollars in impact and net loss for those important programs. So it's important that we take action and support House Bill 913, introduced by Representative Nielsen, and Senate Bill 710, proposed by Senator Tommy Tomlinson. Both of those pieces of legislation will go a long way toward clarifying the law, giving authority to people to enforce it, and reinforcing the penalties. Thanks for the opportunity to present. I'll keep my remarks short, and I look forward to your question.
Thank you. Representative Nielsen.
Thank you, Chairman. Thank you, Drew, for coming today. Drew, we've been getting a lot of information on this, and this is something that we've really been reading a whole lot about. This year, we've heard from proponents of these machines that the lottery has gone up, and we have grown. Now, Act 42, we had a lot of expectations when we passed that act that we thought we'd be growing substantially more than we did this year. But can you tell us where that growth was from? And because I think it's important that we realize that it could have been bigger. And that's it, because I have one of the oldest districts in the Commonwealth. And I have, I think I'm number 3 of more seniors than there's only 2 other districts in the Commonwealth that have more seniors than my district does. So lottery's important to me. It's very important. It keeps them in their homes, feeds them, and that's what I wanted to make sure. So if you could explain that, and that's all I have.
Sure. The lottery is having a good year, and it would have been better. More precisely, $138 million better. Not to mention the additional revenue we could have generated from additional retailers for Keno and Express Sports. Those games are a small part of our growth because we're behind our estimates because we're having so much trouble recruiting new retailers to sell those games. A lot of the growth is coming from scratch-off tickets, big jackpot games. You see Powerball and Mega Millions when you see a big jackpot now, and if you don't have a ticket for the next drawing, you should get one.
There's a plug, huh?
And so the growth is coming from all over our product portfolio. Not much of it from those monitor games because of the problem we're having recruiting new retailers.
Thank you. Representative Warner.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you for your testimony today. I did have a quick question. One of the earlier numbers that you'd mentioned was that the lottery lost approximately $138 million due to games of skill. Could you elaborate a little bit on how you come up with that number? I mean, for one, it seems like a very large number, but where it comes from.
Sure. It is a large number. The more alarming part is that it has grown dramatically over the course of the last year and is expected, unchecked, to grow dramatically moving forward. The way that $138 million was calculated, a team of economists and analysts analyzed data that we collected, looked at, they were able to isolate the effect of each.
Where was it team of, who provided that team?
So we have an internal research team.
Okay,
and then
so the team was from the lottery?
And then
internally from the lottery?
And then our supplier, also our supplier of our systems, also has a team of economists, and they work together to arrive at estimates. They were able to isolate the effect of each machine. They control for a number of different market factors and retail trends. They were able to analyze stores in which lottery sales occur in stores in which have a skill machine and stores that don't. And then also the before and after installation. So the economists, the analytical approach was to balance out those factors. Again, the market trends, but also the presence of a machine, no presence of a machine, and then the timing of the machine, and arrived at a 95% certainty that the number is $138 million a year. And if we analyze it a month from now, it'll be greater.
95% certainty. All right. Has there been anybody else provided or done an investigation to see what this number is? Or is it just the lottery? Is this the only number that we have to go off of? Is a number provided from the or that you're aware of?
I work for the Pennsylvania Lottery, so I'm not necessarily aware of any other studies that are going on, but I have a responsibility to do what's best for older Pennsylvanians in our mission.
Okay, I appreciate that. I mean, I guess you have to come up with a number. To me, it just seems personally, it just seems grossly overestimated, because you almost have to be a mind reader, right? Like, you have to determine, like, okay, this person plays a game of skill. Do they also play the lottery? I mean, maybe I don't play the lottery, but I play a game of skill. I mean, I like to go I don't play the lottery that often, but I go to the casino. So I just wonder, you almost kind of have to be a mind reader to determine, is that person going to play the lottery and game of skill? They play both? That's a pretty tough number to come up to. I do have another question. Since just wonder if you could maybe provide a background of the impact of the lottery since the implementation of casinos in the state. So since we started with the casinos and we have all the slot machines, what is the lottery better now than it was since we've had casinos in the state, or is it worse than what it was since that time, since the roughly 2004, 2005, when we allowed casinos in the state?
The lottery has grown since 2004.
Okay, so it's done better. Okay, no further questions, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Thank you. Representative Dunbar.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just to follow up on Representative Warner's questions, the $138 million, is that a revenue loss or a income loss? I mean, does that mean you've sold $138 million less in tickets, or you made $138 million less?
That's a sales number. So since we run at a 25% margin for older Pennsylvanians, so it's about a quarter of that would be for older Pennsylvanians.
Thank you. Just want to make sure.
Thank you. Chairman Conklin.
Just a quick follow-up to an earlier question. When you said the lottery has grown since the casinos, isn't that a requirement within the Gaming Act that the casinos must have lottery in there as well?
It is. It's a requirement. All the casinos have lottery machines, and actually some of them are among our better retailers.
Thank you.
Thank you. When the casinos were first implemented, and even prior, did you collect data to see what effect they might have on the lottery? And could you share that?
We did. We collected, not only the lottery did, and a similar team of analysts analyzed that data back in the early 2000s, but the legislature required the Legislative Budget and Finance Committee to also analyze it and conduct an annual study, which it did for 4 or 5 years, I think, every year. They performed an analysis to make sure that the presence of casinos were not hurting the lottery. And what we determined was our own internal study and LBFC's study determined that casinos tended to be destination businesses, and the lottery is more of a convenience business, and so there was no net effect, and that overall the lottery wasn't harmed by the addition of the casinos. I think that's why we're concerned about and seeing a greater effect from these illegal machines, because they're everywhere we are, and then some.
Thank you. Representative Mahaffey.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Drew, thank you, and thank you for being in the district. It seems to me a lot of the people testifying today are in the district, but you have a great establishment there, and taking the time with me to understand exactly how the lottery works with scientific games and how you guys do that and get everything out to us in a timely manner that have those kind of machines. The question you said is you had trouble placing machines. Have you seen anybody remove lottery from their premises because they took on a game of skill?
I don't think I'm not aware of any specific cases. We have 9,700 retailers, so might there be a couple? Perhaps. I'm not aware of specific cases where we essentially were kicked out because of the presence. I know very specifically we've been hearing from our sales team that that is often a reason that we cannot recruit new retailers for our monitor games.
I think that's more of a. I mean, I understand you want to grow and you want to have more places, but removal to me could be really, really bad. So thank you. Appreciate that. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Representative DeLoso.
Real quick math. 138 million, $36 million for Pennsylvania seniors. Could you use another 36 million for Pennsylvania seniors?
So, we work for stakeholders, not stockholders. So our mission is to deliver as much money as we can in a responsible way for those critical senior programs. Our foot is always on the gas, trying to find more ways, again, to responsibly generate more money. Absolutely, that $36 million is missed. I think the representatives of the senior groups will be up here next, and they can talk about more specifically how much more an impact $36 million would have. But I know that we're always looking for nickels and dimes in the couch cushions for all intents and purposes, let alone huge sums like $36 million.
Is there a pathway that's agreeable to the Lottery Commission with Pennsylvania Games of Skill?
So I believe that we stand with the state police on this. These appear to be illegal, and they are, I know, absolutely hurting our ability to generate more money for older Pennsylvanians and affecting the lives of Pennsylvania seniors. In my mind, it is, I am always going to be concerned on behalf of our Bureau with any initiative that hurts our ability to generate more money.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Representative Warner, you have a question?
Yeah, just very quick follow-up, if you don't mind, Mr. Chairman. Good. I know in previous versions of different bills when we were talking about VGT and gaming, and legalizing and regulating that from the state, we had a lot of different proposals that a portion of the money from those games actually were to go to the lottery fund. Are you aware of any restrictions that if there is a bill to regulate these skill machines, is there anything preventing a portion of money going to a lottery fund? You aware of any restrictions in that? So if we came up with a bill that regulated skill machines, is there anything stopping a portion of money going to a lottery fund?
I'm not aware of any reason other than the challenge of measuring how much that should be, but I'm not aware of any.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Representative O'Neill.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm just wondering, can we get a copy of the economic report?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Representative Nielsen.
A follow-up on Rep. Warner's. If we gave the lottery the skill machines, could your agency handle them? So maybe like you get 60% of these skill machines?
So that's something we'd have to look at. I don't know enough about that business model. We're not a regulatory agency. We're more of an agency trying to sell a product at retail. But it's, you know, we'll consider anything. That's obviously
yeah, he just
not
brought something
our-
really good up. Maybe we give you these games of skill, and then you get 60%, and then we'll split the other 20 and 20 with everybody else. But just a thought, Chairman. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you. I don't believe we have any further questions. Thank you, Drew, for being here, and thank you for serving our older adults.
Thank you.
Our next group is the members of the Pennsylvania State Police. I apologize that you had to stand in this standing room only hearing. Major Scott T. Miller, Director of the Bureau of Liquor Control Enforcement. Lieutenant Michael Gaines, Eastern Section Commander. Lieutenant Jeffrey Reener, Central Section Commander. Gentlemen, thank you for your service, and please begin when you're prepared.
Good morning. I think it's still morning. Chairman Marshall and Chairman Conklin and other members of the House Gaming Oversight Committee, thank you for this opportunity to speak with you. Again, I'm Major Scott Miller of the Pennsylvania State Police. I currently serve as the Director of the Bureau of Liquor Control Enforcement. With me today are Lieutenant Jeff Renier, who's our Central Section Commander, handles the Altoona, Harrisburg, and Williamsport area, and our Eastern Section Commander, Lieutenant Michael Gaines, who handles Wilkes-Barre, Allentown, and Philadelphia, the eastern part of the state. We appreciate this opportunity to appear before you and speak about illegal gambling devices and be part of the conversation about strengthening the prohibitions against illegal, unregulated gambling. Illegal gambling is not new to the Commonwealth. We have experienced great expansion of this industry within the past several years, both in the number of devices and the venues in which they are located. I'd like to begin with some opening remarks, and then we will be available for questions. However, I must note, we have several cases in various court systems in the Commonwealth, so some of my answers may be limited. The Bureau of Liquor Control Enforcement has and continues to enforce illegal gambling devices. Since 2013, we have seized an average of 590 machines per year. Despite these efforts, illegal electronic gambling devices are present in Pennsylvania liquor licensed establishments. Several of my predecessors and I have been asked to estimate the number of illegal gambling devices in operation in the Commonwealth. In 2017, the Bureau of Liquor Control Enforcement conducted a 4-week study to examine the number of machines observed and then extrapolated that figure to the number of licensees in categories where typically we saw those machines. Those categories would be restaurants, operating more as bars, clubs, and some hotels. We're now seeing that expanded, where we're actually seeing machines in beer distributors, for example. And perhaps the greatest expansion area where we've seen these machines is convenience stores. In strip malls, we've seen mini casinos created. We've seen them actually in a mall. And those areas present additional concerns where we are concerned about youth or teenagers gambling in those facilities. Based upon the study we did, the 4-week study, we estimated at the time that there were 13,500 machines. That's an extremely conservative estimate, and I want to emphasize that that's a conservative estimate. My predecessor, Major Tom Butler, testified before this committee in September of 2015 and testified at that time that he estimated there were 15,000 machines. So I want to quantify the 13,500 machine number from 2017 from a study we did then, nearly 2 years ago, and say that those were only in licensed liquor establishments. And you've heard me say that now the machines have expanded into many other areas that don't have liquor licenses. But to really understand that number and the impact, we need to put a dollar figure to it. So industry personnel have relayed to us that these machines earn an average of $100 to $1,000 per week. If we were to take the middle of that and say $500 a week, that makes this a $350 million industry operating, we believe, illegally within the Commonwealth. To be clear, because we've had some questions about this, these devices are not merely video games played to obtain a high score, or maybe you win some extra credits to continue playing on the game, or to enter your name or initials for kind of bragging rights on the machine. Nor are they arcade-type games where you take your children to play and they win tickets or get credits put on a card, where they then later exchange that for trinkets or a nominal prize. That's not the games we're talking about. These games accept up to $100 bills in the bill acceptors. They are not coin operated. Up to $100 bills entered into the machine, and they advertise payouts in excess of $1,000. I heard some statements here, and I've heard some other comments talking about amusement devices. And we also heard some comments about what's gambling. So gambling is consideration, chance, and reward, and I'll talk a little bit more about that. But if these truly are amusement devices, then all they have to do is quit paying out cash. And people can continue to play the game where the visual amusement and the auditory amusement may be associated with those games and not pay out the cash. That would be an amusement device. These machines accept cash for gameplay and pay out on those. In January of this year, 2019, liquor enforcement officers began documenting specific venues where illegal gambling devices are located. Since January of 2019, after only visiting a portion of the licensed liquor establishments in the Commonwealth, we've documented 1,822 businesses that have machines in them. And within those businesses, we observed 4,368 suspected illegal gambling devices. As I mentioned previously, since 2017, we've seen these numbers increase. We've seen them increase in the different venues they appear in, and we've also seen them going outside traditional licensed liquor establishments. I talked about the venues creating an extra area of concern. Our licensed casinos, as you know, only allow players aged 21 or older. We've seen examples of a piece of tape with marker written on it that says it must be 21 to play. We've seen small signs that say must be 18 and older. We've seen signs of 18 with a circle with a red slash through it. No one under 18 can play. These safeguards are not present. We've also seen machines placed next to candy displays and toy displays. I want to make it clear that this is a much bigger industry than any one company. Presently, there are at least 5 different manufacturers that we know of alleged skill-based electronic gambling devices operating in the Commonwealth. Several of these manufacturers use different brand names and have multiple game types, and most have different software versions deployed in their devices. So just for an example, in preparation for this hearing, I counted up 188 different games from the 5 different manufacturers in operation in this Commonwealth. So where before, years ago, maybe in the late 60s or 70s, you would picture a couple of slot machines in the club, now we're talking about software and technology that can be changed very rapidly. It can be changed by computer, by a service person coming on site and changing the software in those machines, or it can be changed over the internet, changing the software in those machines. Is it outside of the realm of possibility that the payout threshold or the retention of those machines could be changed over the internet? Could they be changed? Could the machines be hotter earlier in the week and maybe pay out less after payday? Could they be hotter early in the month and maybe pay out less towards the end of the month? Why do illegal electronic gambling devices continue to exist despite enforcement? The machines are lucrative to both the vendor and the business owner. This is a multi-million-dollar industry. Machines generate, as I mentioned before, between $100 and $1,000 of income per week, while generating a very small footprint within a business, usually 3 feet by 3 feet square. The proceeds are usually paid to the business owner by the vendor in cash and may or may not be reported for tax purposes. One manufacturer reportedly has 9,000 machines operating in the Commonwealth. Presuming an average income of $500 per machine per week, this would generate $4.5 million in gross revenue per week for this one manufacturer. As one example of the lack of tax reporting, we obtained information from a bartender that they contacted a bar owner about providing a W-2G tax form to a winner for a large payout on one of these devices. And they were simply told by the owner it was the vendor's responsibility, and no tax form was ever provided. I heard some comments or questions earlier about payouts, limiting payouts to $495, I believe it was. Interestingly enough, I testified before the Senate Law and Justice Committee in 2017. And shortly after that time, I talked about W-2Gs, and we started seeing those structured payout slips of $500 or less. We have received information from liquor licensees who have stated they believe the machines are illegal, but have resorted to putting them in their establishments because they are losing business to other liquor licensees who have the machines in their establishment. Additionally, we received information from a vending company who was told if they would not provide gambling machines to a liquor establishment, they need to remove their legitimate vending equipment because they were shifting to another vending machine distributor. Many people believe that gambling is a victimless crime, and PSP routinely receives complaints from families who are victimized by family members who lose all their money in these illegal gambling devices due to gambling addictions or impaired judgment. Illegal electronic gambling devices currently are unregulated. There are no set payout requirements, and payout retention may be changed by the manufacturer or the vendors. Why isn't the Pennsylvania State Police Bureau of Liquor Control Enforcement more aggressive in the enforcement of this illegal activity? The cases take time to develop. They involve undercover operations and significant expenditures of time and money. Historically, these cases have been investigated with the aim of prosecuting the vendors of these machines for felony violations of corrupt organizations based upon the racketeering activity associated with the gambling. Penalties for possession of the machines are a misdemeanor of the first degree under the Crimes Code. Violations for possessing gambling machines under the Liquor Code are a standard range violation, usually resulting in a fine of approximately $750, and historically have not jeopardized the business's liquor license. The PSP Bureau of Liquor Control Enforcement has worked with the Pennsylvania Liquor Control Board to address this issue. Existing case law has further challenged law enforcement in our efforts to shut down these illegal gambling enterprises. Despite these challenges, we are committed to enforcing the law, and we continue to investigate the persons and venues engaged in these illegal activities. The elements of gambling are consideration, which would be money put into a machine, chance, the randomness of some act, for example, the spinning of a slot machine reel, and reward, the payout for cash, an item of value. Due to case law, the element of chance versus skill is measured by a predominant factor test. The nature of this determination regarding specific gambling machines has been placed upon the court system. This can and has resulted in differing opinions across the Commonwealth. One district attorney or common pleas judge may see a machine as being predominantly skill, and another may view the same machine as being predominantly chance. Another challenge in making this determination is the technology associated with the gambling devices constantly changing. Individual devices may operate differently than other devices placed within a similar cabinet, or being labeled with the same name. Software versions may change or be upgraded. Think about how the software gets updated on your smartphones. Increasingly, this may be done remotely via internet connection, thereby possibly making yesterday's machine different than the one in the operation today. Thus, each case outside established per se devices may require independent review and will not result in precedential case law. Other technological advances such as remote control knockoff devices and cellular telephone applications to shut down the systems have been encountered by our officers. What can be done legislatively to address this issue? Providing clarity in the law, specifically defining the illegality of devices regardless of the element of chance or skill, will enhance the efficiency of law enforcement operations and provide further clarity to liquor licensees, device manufacturers, distributors, and vendors. Again, we thank you for this opportunity to appear before you today, and we will be glad to answer questions.
Thank you, Major Miller. Representative Nielsen.
Thank you, Major, for coming today. We've been working on this issue a long time, and thus the reason that we want to try and grab them all, to this way get them all out. And that's the importance to you, to give you that tool, to say, okay, look, when you walk in, because you don't know whether it's this one, that one. Some person has a piece of paper and says, well, the court ruled this, the court ruled that, but that's still under, but invested. That, I think they heard the court, one of the Commonwealth Court got testimony 2-3 weeks ago on the major case against these machines.
Sure. There's currently a Commonwealth Court case regarding the application of Title IV, which is the Gambling Act, and use against these machines, which essentially would provide the opportunity to go into any establishment and say, one, are you a licensed casino? If the answer is no, then you can't have a gambling device there. Was the machine manufactured by a licensed manufacturer? If the answer is no, then the machine is illegal. Was the machine supplied by the licensed supplier? If the answer is no, then the machine is illegal. That would greatly increase the efficiency of law enforcement. When you think about the Gambling Act, there are many investigatory processes in there for the key employees, suppliers, manufacturers, distributors, the people who service the machines. None of those safeguards exist with these alleged skill-based devices or the traditional illegal devices we've seen.
We tried to address it in Act 42, but you also talked about penalties, because like everybody, when you try and address something, they find a loophole.
Sure.
Another loophole found, and who knows what it's going to be next. But something you mentioned about the penalties. Do you think if we take the liquor license, because that's a pretty steep penalty for some of the establishments. I mean, I hate to go that direction and put them out of business. Maybe like first offense this, second offense this, third offense, we're putting it on the auction block. Something like that. Would that be a tool for you to have?
Yes. I won't speak for the Liquor Control Board who handles the licensing, but they did testify after me in a previous hearing, and they will consider one adjudicated citation for a gambling device during the 2-year renewal process for a liquor license, so it now may impact our liquor license. The strengthening of the language in the law, I absolutely believe we will gain significant voluntary compliance, particularly from liquor license holders. And we've heard from a lot of club officers who say, listen, we think they're wrong. They're actually negatively impacting our small games of chance sales, but we're pushed to put them in there because they are lucrative. So we have a lot of our members saying, hey, why are we missing out on this when the club or the bar or the restaurant down the street is, in fact, getting that revenues from it?
That I'm real happy to hear that, because that's important to make certain that all these agencies will work together. And if there's anything that you feel that our committee could do to strengthen this and give you more tools, because like you said, this is from what you described, we talked off book a few times, you have to go in undercover. We heard from one of your former undercover agents today who's now working for the skill machines, but that's a long process to make certain that they're paying out. And manpower, you don't have that kind of manpower. That's thus why there's so many machines here. You can't dedicate all the manpower for this while you're trying to protect the other communities.
In an investigation in the spring of last year, we worked an 18-month investigation. We simultaneously raided 40 locations and seized over 200 machines in one evening. That was the culmination of an 18-month investigation. And there may be some people who are thinking, well, why not just let it work through the court system and let the case all work itself out? Some of the seminal case law that exists right now started from cases 3, 4, or 5 years earlier. So the question, and I appreciate it's very clear that this committee has done a lot of research and is asking intelligent questions. You know the subject matter. The question is, if we want to let the court system work it out, how long are we willing to let that go on? So some of the case law happened in 2013 and 2014. I mentioned my predecessor was here in 2015. We have seen great expansion of these machines, and I'm sure you've seen them in your communities. There's a location right on Beaver Avenue in State College where they're popping up all over the place. So the question is, do we do something now, or do we wait for it to play out in the court system?
Hopefully, that's why we're having a hearing today, hopefully to do something now. And I thank you again, gentlemen, for your testimony and for coming here today. Nothing further, Chairman.
Thank you. Representative Mahaffey.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, gentlemen. Thank you for your testimony, Major. Thank you for your service to Pennsylvania, the Commonwealth. You said something about mini casinos. Can you elaborate on that, please? Because I heard the same thing, but I did not witness it, and it was all hearsay. So if you could just elaborate on that, that would be great.
So across the Commonwealth, illegal gambling used to be a little bit more regionalized, but it's very widespread now. We have seen advertised locations, strip malls are what comes to mind, with a storefront advertised on the door, advertised on the signboard out in front of the building, and they might have 15, 20, 30 different machines in there, house of skill, things of that nature. So they truly are operating as mini casinos, where actually we investigate them to make sure there's not illegal activity from a speakeasy perspective. But when you think about the expansion of the Gambling Act that allowed expansion of other casinos, smaller casinos, what we have now is what we're seeing is 10, 15, 30 machines, maybe more, in a storefront or a location operating as a casino. That's their sole business, just the machines. They might sell some snacks.
The testimony earlier was that Pace-O-Matic allows 5 machines in one establishment. So you're talking about these other people putting these mini casinos together, or mini skill games together. If there are that many in one place, is that what you're seeing? Or
I won't speak of any one business because we have legislation about going on, but I would say I haven't seen limits on any number of machines from any one company.
Okay. And if you can't answer this question, that's fine. This comes to the court case stuff, and I know you said earlier that you couldn't answer some things. This stems from a court case in Beaver County, correct?
So the first cases occurred out of Bucks County, one Jersey Hold'em and red, white, and blue. And those were reel-to-reel slot machines. And the expert testimony that came in said because the reels were fixed, that they weren't in sequential order, but because they were in the same order, that over time, someone could theoretically, when you hit a skill stop button, learn the timing of when that would stop. So that kind of really started the process. So that was a Bucks County case. And then there was a Beaver County case in 2014 involving Pace-O-Matic machine, one Pace-O-Matic machine. And the result of that hearing was that the judge determined that predominant factor was that skill was more predominant than chance. So that case, a common police case in Beaver County, only remains in Beaver County. Now, it's been used as reference in other cases and certainly can be, but there again, we're dealing with machines that constantly change. So is a machine, for example, that had 3 games in at one point the same machine that now has 6 games in? Is a machine that might have software version 10.2 the same as a machine that has software version 11.3? And when we look at this and you say, well, why are the state police here? In August of 2016, I was promoted in to be the director of the Bureau of Liquor Control Enforcement, and as I traveled around to our 9 district offices and spoke with our liquor enforcement officers, they said, what are we going to do about these skill-based machines? And I began learning about it. And when I began looking at what the Bureau has done to enforce illegal gambling over the years, we're doing the same thing with diminishing returns. So for many years, I've watched appropriations hearings, and many of you have sat on the appropriations committee, and I often see you saying to the commissioner, the deputy commissioner, how can we help you? Let us know what we need to help you. What we need is some clarity in the legislation. And clarity in the legislation will allow us to be way more efficient in what we do. And as I mentioned earlier, I truly believe that we're going to get a lot of voluntary compliance from business owners. So if the move is to legalize these machines, then what I would ask is that they're all credentialed in some way. It would make us very efficient to go in and look at them. And if the move is to say, no, we have legalized gambling in other areas, we're going to make the law clear that we're illegal, then make that law sufficient that, again, it makes us very efficient about how we carry out our duties. I'm not asking for more people. I'm not asking for more money. What I'm suggesting is that we get some clarity in the law with clear definitions, and I believe that'll help a broad spectrum of.
The court case in Beaver, did the Commonwealth then appeal that case? Is that one of the other cases going on in Commonwealth Court right now?
That case was not appealed.
Oh, they did not appeal it. Okay. If it's, since you're the enforcement, liquor control enforcement, and these mini casinos don't have anything to do or don't have a liquor license, you still can oversee that. I mean, you still can seize those machines.
Yeah. So I'm still a Pennsylvania State Trooper. Right. So I have enforcement authority, anywhere in the Commonwealth. Okay. The liquor enforcement officers have more stringent empowerment of their duties. So it depends on if the case is tied to another case involving, I mentioned prosecuting the vendors, but historically we would focus liquor enforcement officers on liquor enforcement establishments.
Right. In last question, since the case in Beaver County, has it been harder to seize machines, or have you been still taking out illegal machines?
Well, probably the biggest expansion we've seen is in, and I'm going to refer to it as alleged skill-based gambling, because different manufacturers have different components of the skill. One, for example, their skill component it's a standard video slot machine, and then the skill element is on the reward feature, which is a horizontal bar. There's a vertical bar moving back, and where you stop, that depends on the amount of your reward, and that's their argument of skill. Recently, we had a case in Cambria County that was decided, and the judge's ruling in that case, and that was against an alleged skill-based manufacturer. And in part of her ruling, she stated this: consequently, because the skill touch machine's outcome is predetermined in sequential order, there is nothing the player can do to overcome that outcome. It is this court's finding that the skill touch machines are games of chance. Furthermore, because all three elements are met, skill touch machines are so intrinsically connected with gambling and are therefore gambling devices per se. So what we're going to have is battling. There's an older case law, and in that case law, the Superior Court states what we're going to come down to is the battle of the experts. And that's exactly where we're at. And that case goes back a number of years. What we're doing when we wind up in court now is we are hiring experts, and the industry has their expert, and they battle it out before a judge. And I could start talking about a whole lot of gambling terms here, and you've been here for a couple hours and it's warm, and you'll glaze over very quickly. So our judges are very smart folks, but imagine when they get battled with 2 or 3 days of testimony, detailed testimony about gameplay. It is a very complex technology. That's where we've moved towards. So I think I would ask that you would help us to be more efficient carrying out our duties. I hope I answered your question.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Major. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. That's all questions I have.
Thank you. Chairman Conklin.
Thank you. I want to thank you all for coming. I want to thank your brothers and sisters for what you do. But as we go through this process of trying to come up with a way that we know what's legal and not legal in legislative form, would it help you if we were able to put a registry database together that when a manufacturer or whoever it may be puts a machine in a facility, that you can go directly to a database? So if you walk into R&B Market and you see 35 machines and you walk out to your car and you just go into the database and there shouldn't be 35 machines there, would that help?
Yes. And anything along those lines, credentialing with serial numbers. I think there was some testimony about putting something you could query with a smartphone, some way that not only the brand of machine is credentialed, but also the individual machines themselves. Because what we see is masking of machines. So we see other manufacturers putting machines in cabinets of a different manufacturer, or maybe they mimic their games, or maybe they mimic their name closely. So all kinds of, there's a lot of money involved in this. So there's all kinds of things that are taking place.
Thank you. Thank you.
Gentlemen, thank you for your testimony and thank you for your service to this Commonwealth. We have no further questions. This hearing will extend until approximately 12:45 to try to get to as many groups as we can. The next group testifying are Adrian King from Ballard Spa Law Firm representing Penn National Gaming, Hollywood Casino, and Meadows Racetrack and Casino. Mark Stewart from Eckert Siemens Law Firm representing Parks Casino, and Bill Downey from Brownstein Hyatt Farber Schreck representing Harrah's Philadelphia Casino and Racetrack.
Here are your, excuse me. Hi, here are the names.
And if Blaine Grayboys, co-founder and CEO of GameCo, could join this group, it might be more efficient in timing. Mr. King, if you're ready, if you would like to start the group. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Real quick, because I know everyone's looking at it. What we have is an example of what you've already heard, which is a location with skill games. And if you see at the bottom, this gentleman wants everyone to know that the rear of his establishment is the mini casino on Penn Street, Keno, Express Sports, and 5 Pennsylvania skill machines. So I think this goes to what you've already been hearing from the state police and others. Let me get started if I could, Mr. Chairman. Chairman Marshall, Chairman Conklin, members of the committee, good morning. My name is Adrian King. I'm an attorney at the law firm of Ballard Spar. And I appear before you today on behalf of my client, Penn National Gaming, and its 2 Pennsylvania casinos, Hollywood Casino at Penn National Racecourse, which you all know is up the road in Dauphin County, and Meadows Racetrack and Casino, which is located in Strabane Township in Mr. Representative O'Neill's district in Washington County. And with me here today are my colleagues Mark Stewart from the law firm of Eckert Siemens, representing Parks Casino in Bensalem, Bucks County, Mohegan Sun, in Plains Township, Luzerne County. He also represents Live Casino, soon to be in Philadelphia. And also Bill Downey from the law firm of Brownstein, Hyatt, Farber, and Schreck, who represents Harrah's. In addition, Mr. Stewart and I represent, between the two of us, 4 of the 5 Category 4 casinos that are going to hopefully be licensed to go into Berks, York, Cumberland, and out in Westmoreland County. As many of you know, on May 2nd, 2019, all of Pennsylvania's 13 casinos joined together in an industry letter to the House and Senate, urging the General Assembly to enact legislation expressly declaring that so-called skill games are unlawful. Through your staff, we provide you with a copy of the letter, and I will not go through it in detail, but I want to go over some of the higher points. First, we contend that skill games are illegal now when operated outside of a licensed gaming facility, i.e. a casino. Through Act 42 of 2017, the General Assembly, many of you sitting here today, I don't know how many freshmen we have on the committee, specifically defined skill games as slot machines. I want to repeat that. That's in Act 42. We can give you the citation if you want it exactly. There can be no dispute then that the only legal place to operate a slot machine and a skill slot machine is in a licensed casino. And as a result of Act 42, the trial court decision in Beaver County, for example, upon which skill games proponents rely on, is no longer relevant and no longer of any legal effect, just like any other court decision that is effectively reversed after you, the legislature, change the law. That's the first point. Number two, skill games are an illegal expansion of gaming. The rampant proliferation of skill games throughout the Commonwealth constitutes an illegal expansion of gaming and is fundamentally inconsistent with the express intent of the General Assembly. Specifically, in connection with the passage of Act 42, the General Assembly considered many options and proposals for expanded gaming, including some that would have led to gambling machines on every main street in every town across Pennsylvania. What I'm talking about is the widespread VGT proposal. Make no mistake, skill games, if they roll out as they are now, is effectively VGTs across the entire state. You rejected that in Act 42, limited it to truck stops. Legislature rejected that approach and specifically declined to allow gambling devices in limitless numbers of locations, irrespective of whether the games are determined by chance or skill or both. Number three, illegal skill games siphon revenue from the Commonwealth. Illegal skill games do not generate any gaming tax revenue for the Commonwealth, and in fact, quite literally steal revenue from the General Assembly's top priorities of property tax relief and support for senior citizens. The proliferation of skill games cannibalizes existing legal gaming revenues of the Commonwealth's licensed casinos, and as you've already heard, has undermined the financial condition of Pennsylvania's lottery. The significant harm caused by skill games is widespread. Since 2006, casino gaming has contributed more than $12 billion in gaming tax revenue to the state treasury. The Commonwealth is the 54% stakeholder, so the majority stakeholder in casino slot machine revenue, it risks the biggest loss from the decline in gaming revenue caused by illegal skill games. And you just heard Pace-O-Matic testify 54% doesn't work for them. Casinos have made that work. You've had the highest tax rates for gaming, all variations, slots, tables, sports wagering, internet, in, I don't want to over-exaggerate, but almost the entire world. Highest percentages in this state. You've been able to enjoy that. The industry's been able to deliver it, the casino gaming industry. They don't want to do it. So I ask you if it makes sense to allow them to take revenue away from you at a percentage rate lower than what you're already earning in licensed casinos. In addition, gaming facilities in the Commonwealth directly employ nearly 18,000 people, approximately 90% of whom are Pennsylvanians and many of whom are union members. Every measure should be taken to shut down illegal gambling like skill games, which threatens these employees and their families sustaining jobs. Next, local companies and small businesses typically sell approximately $230 million of goods and services to Pennsylvania casinos each year. Skill games will put this vital source of business for them at risk, and seniors and homeowners will feel the pain of reductions in gaming revenue that would otherwise have gone toward property tax relief and rent rebate programs. Finally, county and local share governments will also feel the ripple effects from decreased local share revenue as a result of illegal skill games, diminishing funds for first responders, human services programs, transportation and infrastructure improvements, and other economic development projects. The Press Journal in Middletown just reported that in 2019, that area enjoyed nearly $1 million in local share grants paid directly by Hollywood Casino in Grantville. The fire department that one of your witnesses testified for got $125,000 for a new pumper truck. We're making major, major, major contributions over and above that, including our charitable contributions. 4, illegal skill games, provide none of the public protections of legalized gaming. I think this is a very important point to go over. Beyond the damage to the Commonwealth and its programs, skill games pose substantial risk of harm to the public. When the General Assembly authorized limited gaming in the Commonwealth, first in 2004, expanding it in 2010, expanding it in 2017, it did so very, very carefully with the primary objective of protecting the public. Skill games, however, afford the public none, absolutely none of the protections of legalized gaming contemplated by the General Assembly and imposed on all other forms of legalized gaming. You made a point about VGTs and their role in that regulatory environment. First, no responsible safeguards are in place to protect the public, such as self-excluded list available to compulsive and problem gamblers. No precautions or restrictions are in place to prevent underage gaming on skill games by minors. Indeed, the placement of some skill games appear designed to encourage underage gambling, and I can attest to some of these machines being placed in convenience stores located in close proximity to schools. Businesses, by the way, casinos cannot be within a certain distance of schools. That is a requirement under the law. Businesses that manufacture and sell skill games and those that host and offer them for play to the public are not regulated in any way or required to complete a background investigation or to demonstrate that they and their principals are of good character, honesty, and integrity. No investigation is conducted to ensure their prior activities, criminal record, reputation, and associations do not pose a threat to the public interest. Skill game operations do not comply with anti-money laundering regulations designed to protect against organized crime and efforts by terrorist groups. Casinos do. Not only are we required by state law, but by federal law. And from what I heard today, it's really the location's problem. The folks manufacturing these machines aren't going to take care of that, and I submit to you that the locations themselves are really not equipped to do that. It takes a lot of effort, a lot of skill, knowledge of the law. Next, skill game devices are not independently tested or verified like slot machines are, nor are patrons assured of any quantum of fairness with respect to the play of the game or the payout odds. I think you know that every single one of our machines has to go through a lab and be very, very carefully tested and approved by the Gaming Control Board. Next, skill games deceptively resemble lottery machines and traditional slot machines, often confusing customers into believing the games are legitimate and regulated machines. Finally, on this point, skill games are placed in locations without the presence of police, security officers, or regulators to oversee operations, resulting in a heightened risk of crime and public safety issues. The illegal skill games promise of, quote, play here, we pay here, is an enticing invitation to criminals looking to make a quick score. And this exact scenario just played out recently in Hamburg along, I think that's Interstate 81, when 3 men stole money from illegal skill game machines in a convenience store. In conclusion, skill games are bad for Pennsylvania, they're bad for senior citizens, bad for problem gamers, and most significantly, bad for children. They represent a bold, and I mean this very sincerely, a bold repudiation of existing law. They're illegal, they're out of control, and they should be removed from the Commonwealth. While under Act 42, skill games are already deemed illegal, proposed legislation, such as House Bill 1407, Representative Nielsen's 931, House Bill 931, or Senator Tomlinson's Senate Bill 710, should be approved, since the provisions contained therein will strengthen existing law by making it a criminal offense for anyone to knowingly make, assemble, maintain, lease, or sell skill games. And with that, we'd be happy to answer any questions that you have for this panel.
Do any of the other members Have questions? I'm sure Mr. Graybowitz.
Sure, I appreciate that. Thank you. My name is Blaine Grayboys. I'm the co-founder and CEO of GameCo LLC. Thank you, Chairman Marshall, Chairman Conklin, and the members of this committee for the opportunity to speak today regarding House Bill 1407. While I'm now a resident of Las Vegas, Nevada, I was born in Abington, Pennsylvania, grew up in Lower Bucks County, and graduated from Ben Salem High School, where Parks Casino is located. My connection with the state is one of the reasons that I'm proud to address this body regarding the current topic. GameCo is a gaming manufacturer uniting video games, esports, and casino gambling for a new generation of players and fans. In 2016, GameCo launched the world's first video game gambling machine, or VGM, often referred to as skill-based games. GameCo has established video game gambling as an entirely new category of casino products, and today, GameCo is licensed as a gaming equipment manufacturer in more than 20 jurisdictions, including Nevada. GameCo is here today in support of House Bill 1407, introduced by Representative Marcia Hahn. We're strong supporters of licensed and regulated gaming and believe House Bill 1407 is a positive and strong step toward regulating gray markets such as skill games in Pennsylvania's gambling industry. In particular, regarding House Bill 1407, there are 2 points in which GameCo is strongly in favor of the proposed legislation. The first is the clarification of gambling, which in many jurisdictions is often defined by 3 components: consideration, chance, and prize. We support clarification that only consideration and prize should be included to define what is or what is not a gambling product. If a player can wager and potentially win or lose money, this should be defined as gambling. The second critical point is GameCo's belief and support that gambling should be licensed and regulated. Pennsylvania has a world-class regulator in the Pennsylvania Gaming Control Board. We believe that all gaming manufacturers in Pennsylvania should be under the licensure and regulation of the Pennsylvania Gaming Control Board. The language and terminology regarding gambling products can often be the basis for confusion. In this case, the terms chance and skill can cause undue misunderstanding as to the nature of the technology and functionality of gaming machines. Playing skill and hybrid skill games still constitutes gambling. So-called skill games, including games made by GameCo, still contain elements of chance. Skill games contain a random number generator, or RNG, and other elements which control and manipulate win percentages and payouts. While products such as GameCo's video game gambling machines attract a new, younger demographic of customers different from slot machines, and ultimately represent a new category of gaming from a regulatory and technology perspective, they are gambling machines just like slot machines. In fact, this was the basis for GameCo's business plan, to leverage the existing standards and regulation of slot machines, but to combine them with the interactivity of video games to reach a new market of casino customers and provide sustainability and growth to the casino industry. Products such as video game gambling and skill-based games should be regulated in a similar manner and regime as currently governed slot machines. And again, although skill games, and specifically GameCo's VGMs, are a different category of gaming that deserve its own classification of licensure, these games are gambling. Without a well-established and regulated environment like what the state currently has for casino gaming, you leave gambling wide open to bad actors and bad outcomes. Examples of these risks are myriad, and some have been mentioned just earlier. No protection for underage gambling, no protection or consideration for problem gamblers, or money for protection and treatment of at-risk or problem gamblers. No protection against money laundering, no protection against fraud or bad machines, no third-party testing and compliance approval for gaming machines, no state-of-the-art security operation to prevent crime at the place of business or against the patrons on the premises of such games, no back-end monitoring of machines, no ability to audit machines for financial and patron disputes, no dedicated gaming tax or local share assessment. In the legal and regulated gaming industry, all products are tested and approved by independent test labs, or ITLs. The most well-known and best-regarded ITL is Gaming Laboratories International, or GLI. All GameCo products are tested and approved by GLI. It's worth noting that even with the best of intentions and significant investment by GameCo in engineering and quality assurance, it is not uncommon for GLI to uncover deficiencies that impact the payout of our products, which of course are fixed by GameCo and retested by GLI before products are installed in casinos. Without this intensive and independent testing process, it is impossible for a gaming device manufacturer to ensure the compliance and suitability of their products. For example, all slot machines in Pennsylvania casinos have a minimum payout requirement of 85% over the lifetime of each machine. That same requirement is not enforced with skill games, and in fact, would be impossible to confirm and verify such payout percentages without proper and independent testing from a lab such as GLI. Similar standards are required for physical security and safety testing of slot machines, including certifications from Underwriters Labs, or UL. These standards are in place to ensure and enforce the safety and security for patrons and operators. And such standards should be applied to all gambling machines in compliance with gaming regulators. Oversight and regulation from the Pennsylvania Gaming Control Board also ensures that gambling devices are only present at regulated and licensed venues, such as casinos and truck stops in this market. This is critical as such venues provide for the security, monitoring, and administration of such gambling activities. This is critical for ensuring safe operation and to protect the rights of patrons and operators. There are a number of clear-cut factors and considerations that can be used to qualify what is a gaming device and whether a product should be licensed and regulated by the Pennsylvania Gaming Control Board, including but not limited to, does the game utilize a random number generator or RNG? Does the game include both consideration and prize in the gaming experience and allow for patrons to both lose and win money wagering in gameplay? Does the game meet the physical security and safety standards imposed by independent test labs and UL? Does the game provide the ability to audit patron disputes? Is the game operated by a licensed and regulated gaming device manufacturer? Is the game operated in licensed and regulated gaming environments? Is the game tested and approved by ITL such as GLI for adherence to gaming standards such as minimum payback requirements? Is the game connected to and monitored by back-end systems? Does the game provide the ability to track financial transactions for taxation? It is the reality that GameCo could operate in this gray market, but we strongly believe that our industry needs to be in a secure and regulated environment, and that similar products need to be regulated in the same manner, operating within the current regulated structures where we believe GameCo should be and where skill and hybrid games should operate. However, barriers to entry into Pennsylvania's casino market make it difficult for startups such as GameCo to get off the ground here, and it helps to create gray markets like the one we're talking about today. These barriers include high licensing fees as compared to the initial market opportunity for new gaming companies, particularly startups, coupled with tax rates on gaming machines, which make it very difficult for smaller, innovative companies to enter the market. The General Assembly could look towards solutions to help create a friendlier business environment for innovative companies developing new gaming devices, while also reducing and hopefully eliminating gray markets that exist when barriers to the regulated market exist. In summary, GameCo is an ardent supporter of House Bill 1407, as well as Senate Bill 710, introduced by Senator Tomlinson in the Senate. We believe strongly in the regulation of gambling and that skill gaming machines are ultimately gambling devices. Such games and gaming manufacturers should be licensed and regulated by the Pennsylvania Gaming Control Board, and such games and gaming manufacturers should only operate in licensed and regulated gaming establishments. This is required for the protection of patrons and to ensure that gaming taxes are collected for the benefit of the industry and state. Without such oversight and regulation, it is impossible to verify and control the products offered to patrons in Pennsylvania. Thank you again for the opportunity today.
Thank you. Representative Nielsen.
Thank you, Chairman. Thank you for your testimony, gentlemen. Today we heard from a lot of Pennsylvania manufacturers that make games right here in Pennsylvania. However, they did not go through the regulatory process that was just spoken about by Mr. Grabois. If those manufacturers did go through that process, would your facilities be willing to take those machines in and use them as part of your model within? your casino?
Well, I think it's hard to. I want to make clear we don't have our operational folks here with us today, but we are always looking for the latest and greatest technology that would bring patrons into our casinos. That's in our best interest, and that's in the Commonwealth's best interest. So the answer is, anyone who has a licensed machine that qualifies with the Gaming Act, we are willing to consider. Absolutely.
Thank you. We did think, as you testified earlier, that Act 42 was kind of tight. It was my amendment that made it tight. I thought we would alleviate all this. However, like any other act, everybody finds a loophole, something that we talked to the major about that earlier. So hopefully we can clean this and settle this once and for all. And thanks for putting on the record that we are 54% holders of the casinos. And it does help us with our local property tax, our local share, a whole lot of stuff. And we appreciate it. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you. Representative Mahaffey.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, gentlemen, for your remarks today. My question, too, because of Dauphin County, Adrian, we talked about Hollywood Casino, and I talked about it earlier, is the amount of money that goes into our local share. Our county commissioners do an absolutely great job here in Dauphin County, making sure that goes out to our emergency services. And you're correct, I think it was $125, and then previously they had a $300,000 award in Middletown, and that's not just Middletown. That's Hershey, that's Lower Swatara. I think every one of the fire companies that are in the district, the 106th district, got some kind of award over the last many years. So that is a great concern for me. The other concern is the horse racing. You know, I have a thoroughbred breeder in my backyard. It's actually my neighbor. This has been something that's been going on, and with the funds shrinking, but not only shrinking, they were being taken from by the General Assembly. That money was not to be used then, and was really affected his business and what the horse racing industry does here for Pennsylvania. It's a huge industry, and it trickles down. So do you feel that that's going to be an effect as far as where this goes, and, you know, how can we keep it held harmless? Because I think it was in that act that they locked that money down now, so that money's not really to be taken out of by the General Assembly.
Thank you, Representative, for that question, Mark Stewart. It's absolutely going to be put at risk. It's part of the money for agriculture, and horse racing is part of the 54% tax on the slot machines. So every dollar that doesn't go into a slot machine but goes into one of these so-called skill games, or what they really are in Act 42 is a skill slot machine, it's going to hurt agriculture and hurt horse racing. And the provision you're talking about in terms of that money being safe kept or safeguarded actually went to transfers not being able to be taken out of it, out of the Racehorse Development Fund into other aspects of the general fund or for state spending. That doesn't protect racing from this threat in any way, shape, or form.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you, gentlemen. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Representative Rossi.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My question is for Mr. King. You said you talked about in your statement about the Illinois-style rollout of VGTs. What kind of adverse effects did it have on the casinos in Illinois, how they rolled out their VGTs? And if we rolled out, do you expect to see the same results here in Pennsylvania, just more cannibalism of these casinos?
Well, I think history shows that in Illinois, the rollout of VGTs had a very damaging and harmful effect to the casinos in Illinois. They were downsized, jobs were lost, and people were put out of work. So a widespread rollout of VGTs, or in this case, skill games, can be anticipated to have a very similar effect on the casinos.
And I'm sure it had the exact same effect on the lottery as well in Illinois. Would you say that?
I want to be honest, I don't know the answer to that question, but we can certainly research that and get you an answer.
Really would like to see how the casinos fared. I know it was adverse, and I'm sure the lottery had the same effect. So I'd be curious to see those results.
We'll get you something on
Thank
that.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you, gentlemen. There are no further questions for your group. Our next presenters are Jen Ebersol, Director of State Government Affairs for the Alzheimer's Association, Vicki Hoke, Chief Executive Officer of Pennsylvania Home Care Association, and Rebecca May Cole, Executive Director of the PA Association of Area Agencies on Aging. In the interest of time, if you had remarks you could give, we have your written testimony, but if you could condense in any way, we would appreciate that. And whoever is ready may begin first.
Sure. Yes, thank you so much. And good afternoon now, Chairman Marshall, Chairman Conklin, members of the House Gaming Oversight Committee. We appreciate, on behalf of the Alzheimer's Association, my name is Jen Ebersol, I'm the Director of State Government Affairs. We do appreciate this opportunity. And in the interest of time, I will keep my comments brief because our written testimony is provided in your packets. So I would certainly direct you to that. But I do just want to leave you with a couple of very important points from our perspective. So on behalf of the nearly 400,000 Pennsylvanians in Pennsylvania living with Alzheimer's or related dementia, and the 676,000 Pennsylvania uncompensated caregivers, the access to senior programs that are provided through the Lottery Fund are absolutely vital to their care and to their livelihood. And so with that in mind, the main point I do just want to make to all of you is that with the number of older Pennsylvanians and those diagnosed with Alzheimer's disease that is projected to exponentially increase in the foreseeable future, any threat to revenue streams in the Lottery Fund is of grave concern to the Alzheimer's Association. And so with that, we know access to home and community-based services improves the quality of life for individuals and families affected by dementia. It reduces costs by state governments for eliminating or delaying nursing home placement. And it reduces the financial and emotional burden on those families caring for them. And for all of those reasons, we do have some concerns with the issue at hand today. So I do appreciate, on behalf of the Alzheimer's Association, the opportunity to provide this written testimony. You will be able to find a little bit more detail specifically with the benefits of home and community-based services in your testimony. And with the remaining time left, I'd love to yield to my partners over here.
Chairman Marshall and Chairman Conklin, my name is Katie Dotto. I'm here today to testify on behalf of the Pennsylvania Home Care Association, as Vicki was not able to make it. I want to thank you and the committee members for the opportunity to speak on behalf of the home care community in the state of Pennsylvania. Our association represents more than 700 organizations. We provide medical care through home health agencies, personal care through non-medical home care agencies, and end-of-life care through hospices. I want to focus on home care and personal care specifically, as that is covered by Medicaid, and those services basically extend to individuals over the age of 60 or over the age of 65 who need help with bathing, they need help with dressing, meal prep, medication reminders, and general companionship. What we are finding is that with the income levels for medical assistance in the state to receive home care benefits, your income can be no more than $2,000 a month. But where does that leave people who are making $2,100 a month or bringing that in through any form of Social Security or other income? Well, it doesn't give them very many options. So what the Lottery Options Program does is it opens up those services and provides them a space to receive those very important home and community-based services. I know that for me personally, I have family that receives this care at home, and it's required full-time care. Fear of falling from early onset dementia and other issues like that. And it's not cheap. So your options are the medical assistance program, or your options are going to be private pay. I can tell you, and we are all familiar with Gus the Groundhog and the tagline that the Pennsylvania Lottery benefits older Pennsylvanians every day. And these are important programs because this would leave a segment of human beings out of those services. And furthermore, we take a look at those individuals The options program is provided because the lottery in this state is the only lottery nationwide that is dedicated to supporting older Pennsylvanians. So that being said, with a population that is the fourth oldest population in the country, and we see home care waivers currently doubling every single year, these are needed programs. And the waiting list for the option program right now, it's currently serving 27,000 Pennsylvanians in this state. But the waiting list right now, I believe, is 3,900. So if we look at legislation like House Bill 1407 and Senator Tomlinson's bill, Senate Bill 710, we see an opportunity to protect those lottery funds and to protect these services that are so very important to so many people across this Commonwealth who are deserving. They are our most vulnerable aging population, and including people with disabilities. So I ask for your support in supporting Representative Hahn's bill. I also ask for your support and consideration for Senate Bill 710 when it does come over to this chamber and when it is officially introduced. And any support that we can offer from our perspective, we are more than happy to do so. Thank you for the opportunity.
Good afternoon. My name is Rebecca May Cole, and I am with the Association of Area Agencies on Aging. I will keep my testimony short also. I can start by saying what they said. Everything that they said, I completely agree with. I do need to apologize to Chairman Conklin for, actually, I promoted you, Representative Nielsen, to chair, so I apologize for that. At any rate,
He's been trying to get it off me for all year, so don't.
I am the longest standing House member on the committee.
Oh, I don't want to get in the middle of this. Apologies.
Too late.
He did not pay me to put him first.
I'm not even going to mention the girl next to you. Didn't even mention my bill. She must not like that one.
Oh,
I'm sorry.
Oh, no, I got it.
I do want to
I'll
point
remember
out
you next time.
He's not a chairman, don't worry about it.
I'm glad we can end the day, Chairman, on laughter. Been rough.
it's been a long meeting, definitely. I did want to point out just a few things that were not mentioned already in the testimony that we've had thus far. I do represent the 52 area agencies on aging, or AAAs as we call them, that do serve all 67 counties in Pennsylvania. The AAAs really are the no wrong door community partners where seniors and caregivers can come and receive assistance. It comes in many different shapes and sizes. They can be part of county government. They can be standalone nonprofits. And they really adjust to serve the needs of their community locally and what their individual communities are in need of. I will skip ahead to talk a little bit about the types of services that are provided through the Lottery Fund. We have things such as the options program, which there are a little bit more details in my testimony that talk about the services provided within options. But also included are things like senior centers, and we have home delivered meals. We have other very, very critical services that are provided to seniors. In many cases, those that are very isolated. It may be that the only person they see in that week is the person who's providing those home delivered meals. So I think that's critically important, that we remember the importance and the debt of gratitude, I feel, that we owe our seniors in Pennsylvania, and do everything that we can to shore up the Lottery Fund so that it can continue to strengthen. As was mentioned, we do have probably a little bit more than 3,900 people across the Commonwealth on a waiting list for just option services. And I want to point out that we have Medicaid, which is incredible and provides very beneficial support to seniors and to people with disabilities. These non-Medicaid services that are paid for through the Lottery Fund actually serve to delay and or divert them from Medicaid. And so if we can keep them from falling, keep them from having some sort of an incident that causes them to need the level of care in a nursing home, then we absolutely need to do whatever we can to try to make that happen. So we would just ask for your support. The other item that I wanted to mention was protective services, which is what people use if they suspect that there's some sort of abuse or neglect happening of an older adult. And that is something that has seen a dramatic increase in the number of reports of suspected abuse, more than a 57% increase in the reports of that suspected abuse of older adults. That's the kind of service that's being provided through the Penn Care line item through the lottery fund, and that is absolutely something that we need to have a commitment to. So with that, I will say thank you, and I'm sure we would all be happy to answer questions in the 4 minutes we have left.
Thank you, Chairman.
Chancellor Nielsen, do you have a question?
Thank you all for coming here today and providing testimony. And we, as committee members, we talk about this all the time. We know the importance of the lottery fund, and we are there's not one rep up here that doesn't support all your programs. And we look forward to doing it. I have no specific question, but if I don't talk, the chairman usually cuts me off. So I figured I had to do something, but thank you. Enjoy the rest of your afternoon. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you. We have no further questions. I thank you very much for your testimony, and I have closing remarks from Chairman Conklin.
I want to thank
Former
Chairman
Chair
Marshall.
Conklin.
And actually, I want to thank my vice chair, Mr. Nielsen. He is a chairman. I apologize for that. I want to thank all the participants that came out today. I want to thank the members, and I also want to thank the individuals who took the time out of their day to participate in this. It's been a great hearing. We've learned a lot, and I'm really looking forward to coming up with a viable solution. And thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Chairman Conklin. I'm really amazed at how much information there is on this. I knew this was a valuable hearing. We did extend as much as we could to gather as much information as possible. I'd like to thank the members of this committee, a very diverse group and very inquisitive, intelligent members. I appreciate their service to the Commonwealth. I'd like to thank the staff that did so much in putting this together and all those that testified. And especially, I want to thank the citizens of Pennsylvania that are here today to express their support or opposition, that their voice is heard, and we appreciate how many people are here. This time, this hearing is adjourned.